Launch day.
My there it is. Yeah.
Hey, is that frontwards or backwards? That's weird. I don't know why my camera's whatever.
I see it forward.
Oh, okay. That's really weird. I'm not sure how that happens, but it's launch day for the Joy of Work. So excited about this one, Sally, because I just love launch days. And this is my favorite launch day today. I was going to say of the year, but we've done so many this year. I don't have a favorite. It's like, picking a favorite child. I definitely would never do that because, that just ain't right. But I'm excited about this book. We have a lot of the authors are participating in many different ways, whether it's on the launch day interviews. We're doing a launch party later today that y'all are invited to join us. We'll drop a link in the comments so that you can join us there later. And then also, they're participating in other interviews as well. So Sally, why don't you tell me, what is it about this book that you absolutely love?
Well, I love the concept. Finding joy in the work that you do, because a lot of times, we think of work as drudgery. All right, you got to get up, I got to go to work, and when I sat down to write my chapter for this book, I really thought about what is it that I do that I really love doing. And, and so work isn't necessarily, getting out there and being physical. A lot of times it's things that you look at and you say, hey, you know what, this is kind of fun, or finding something that you really find that joy in, that, keeps you motivated. And, what's the saying, if you find the work that you love, you'll never be, I don't know.
Never work a day in your life.
Something like that.
I think you combine three quotes in one, but that works,
Yeah.
That's how you create
I make my own up, right?
That's how these quotes are made up. Well, same with me. As I sat down to write it, I was like, I had 49 jobs in 36 years. I don't think I really ever had joy in work, but all of that led to what I'm doing today. And so I do share my story in this book as well. 49 jobs in 36 years is the title of my chapter. Excited to talk about that, as well as, interview the authors that we have coming up. The book is already an international best-selling book in the US, Canada, and the UK. And so what we're shooting for today is that number one. Who do we need to pass up, Sally, to hit number one?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Number 2, we're number 4 right now in new releases on Amazon. So Elon, we're coming after you.
We are coming after you. Just watch out, dude. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to bring up our Sally. I'm going to disappear and you're going to do the interviewing during this session. And then I'm going to bring up our guests, Jody Santangelo and Shaneem Noki. No. Did I pronounce it right? No, darn. I had 2 different ways to go. You had a 50-50 chance.
You got my book.
Welcome. I'm going to disappear for a little while, ladies, and look forward to hearing your interviews.
Launch day. Woo-hoo!
So I'm so excited to have you here. So, we're talking about The Joy of Work, the book. You guys have both contributed chapters in the book. So, I'll start with you, Jody. Why don't you just, introduce yourself, tell us a little about who you are and what you do.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. First of all, Sally and Linda, how fun is this? Launch day. This is so exciting. So thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been such a pleasure working with the 2 of you. So, hi, everybody. My name is Jody Santangelo Ash. I am known as the Law of Attraction How-To Coach, because I don't just teach you what Law of Attraction is. I teach you how to apply it every step of the way. And so I am a trainer and coach and teaching you Law of Attraction. And my whole story revolves around the Law of Attraction. So that's just a little bit about me. Sally, let me know if you want me to give a quick overview about why I wrote the book or why I wrote the chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go to Shameen. I'll let her introduce herself and then we'll come back to you.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Yes, my name's Shaneem Noak. I'm a former corporate lawyer, head of department. I left that to advocate for my daughter who has special needs. So I became a school governor and did all that stuff, ended up taking them to court, left precedents everywhere. But I didn't go back into corporate law. I started working on the internet. The internet was coming out along then. So I did a lot of online marketing and going to lots of events all over the world. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm also an author. I had an accident about 12 years ago, and that left me bedridden. And instead of getting really depressed, which I started to get, I started writing. So now I've written many, many, many books. The first one actually was like a memoir, which took everyone on a journey of my and my daughter's journey through the world of special educational needs, and how difficult it is, and just giving people encouragement to say, just keep on fighting, because my child was going to read, even though they said that it was impossible. Of course it's not impossible. But anyway, so we went to court, and that's all documented, and it's called Special Hidden Talents. Before that, I was also a coach and a speaker, and I formulated a 7-step action plan about what you can do to overcome any problem. It's really therapy for myself, because I fell into a deep depression. So I said, well, what do you normally do when you hit a brick wall? And I just started writing down the steps, and it works for everyone, legal or non-legal, parking tickets, anything. It just works. And that was my first published book, actually.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So I'll go back to you, Jody. What made you want to write a chapter in a book called The Joy of Work?
Yeah. So first of all, Shaneem, I love your story. That's really great. Yeah, I love it. So many people need that. We run up a brick wall, and what do we do? So Sally, thank you. So one of the reasons that I decided to contribute a chapter to this book is because I thought it was a great opportunity to introduce this concept of law of attraction for those who aren't familiar with law of attraction. And if you are, it's a great reminder that when you are deliberate about applying law of attraction to your life, well, you can more easily attract your ideal job, career, or business, your ideal relationships, your ideal health, your ideal anything. So in my chapter, I tell the story about how there was a time in my life when I experienced the perfect storm, like many of us do. My job, my marriage, and even my health took a downward negative spiral all at the same time. And unfortunately, I stayed in my pity party for far too long. I was blaming, I was complaining, and my health was just getting worse and worse and worse. Fortunately, somebody introduced me to the concept of law of attraction in the book and the movie and the DVDs. And I was so inspired, and I felt so empowered after just taking a deep dive into this material, that I realized, hey, you know what? I could take some personal responsibility here for the results in my life. Well, there's a novel thought, right? And so I became very deliberate about applying the law of attraction to my life. And eventually I turned my whole life around with some really great results. And I think I'm living a pretty amazing life today. So in my chapter, I do share what law of attraction is, why it works, and most importantly, how to make it work for you. And the reason I wanted to write about this book is because I experience so much joy in my work, because I get to help other people make the positive changes that they want to, whether it's their relationships, their career, their health, etc. And so I just find that so fulfilling, just so fulfilling.
Yeah. So your chapter title.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, right? My chapter title, Your Perfect Job is Looking for You Too. And many people are going, what? Scratching your head? And so, Sally, I actually didn't come up with the title until after I wrote the chapter. Now, in my chapter, I share a quote that I love, love, love. And it's actually on page 78 in the book. And is a quote by Howard Thurman. that says, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs is more people who come alive. So here people are out here searching for that job or career that would be fulfilling. And over here is that thing that would make you come alive, right? Your that ideal career. And then when it becomes a match, now you become alive. And when you become alive, you are more joyful, you're happier, you're more loving, you're kinder, you're probably more giving, you're more accepting, and you have more to offer other people. And so that's why I love this quote. Don't ask what the world needs. Go find what is that thing that would make you come alive and go do it. So that's why I say your perfect job is really out there looking for you too, because I think the purpose of life is joy, and it's just looking for you. Perfect match. Does that make more sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, good. Good.
Shameen, why don't you share, why did you decide to write a chapter? What about this title of this book spoke to you?
Joy. The joy of work. My chapter is actually called Make Joy Your Work. Make joy your work. I mean, we all have jobs, we'll do different things, especially in the corporate world. I'm talking about where you have to work with other people, you have teams, you have rules and regulations, and and so people get bogged down in the tick box and But I was one of those people who I love to read anyway, so I read law, I excelled at everything, and then we have to have a 2-year traineeship, before you become actually qualified after your degree and all the rest of it. And so I went to my first, it was a public sector organization, a huge corporation, and I had to spend 6 months of 2 years in each department. Now, before my final 6 months, so I wasn't yet qualified, I was put in charge of a team of lawyers in the litigation department, which I absolutely loved litigation. Anyway, so that was my first thing. I was put in charge because obviously they saw something in me, because people would say, oh, we can't do that. We do it like this. We do it. I said, no, that's not the way it should be done. I mean, it's much easier to do it this way. It's cheaper. Why would you spend all that money, all that manpower when you can just do it like this, get it done, do a good job and move on? Because a lot of corporations, they're stuck. They're stuck, and people come in, they do their work, they go home, get paid. But you need someone that's going to come in, see what's what. And that's why I kept getting headhunted, because I said, oh God, she did wonders at this place. And I'm not the type of person that can stay still. You can probably, I'm not the kind of person that can stay still. I love to go in, do what I need to do, help as much as I possibly can, make people happy, make them joyous, and then move on, And obviously I got a kind of reputation. And then at a time when I was thinking of leaving the law, this is after I had my daughter, so she was still a baby in nursery, and I was a single mum by then, I decided that I was going to go be a locum, I was going to be a temporary staff and go to different organizations and do certain things. And then I was asked to come to an organization that wanted to completely overhaul their legal department. And they asked whether I would go. And even I was thinking of leaving the profession. I thought, well, let me go, because it was a troubled corporation, to say the least. So I thought, yes, okay, I'll go there and see how things are. Anyway, when I got there, I had to go through the interview process like everyone else, but I got the job. And then as I'm going through the department, I actually described the feeling as like I was wading through mud. I don't know if you feel, because I'm very empathic, you know what I mean? And so, you can feel when people are unhappy, you can feel when they're sad, you can feel when things are just not right. And so I said, well, clearly I've got a lot of work to do here. It's not even about the law. Obviously I knew the law, and they're all lawyers anyway. But what we had to do is raise esteem. We had to make them feel proud of themselves, and because they felt that they were just ignored and everything. But I came on the scene and I said, well, this can't happen. The photocopiers didn't work, and the offices were drab. It was awful. And I said, right, well, the first thing that's got to happen is that we've got to spruce this place up. We've got to get new this and new that. And of course, the management, the directors of the corporation were saying, oh, no, hold on, we don't have the money. I said, look, if you want good work from your people, you have to treat them right. You've got to make them feel as though they're valued and all the rest of it. And what I thought I'd do, because it's going to be I knew it was going to be a difficult task, but what I thought I'd do is go on a postgraduate business diploma, business and leadership, I think it was, just so that I could do my dissertation around morale and motivation in the workplace. Do you know what I mean? Because they were clever people. We're all, they were all lawyers and everything, but the way they were made to work, which is the same in many, many, many corporations, was just not conducive of excellence. Do you know what I mean? So I went on this year-long course. It had project management and all sorts of things, which was fine. But all I wanted was the dissertation, the thesis at the end. And I based mine on morale and motivation and what makes people, happy at work and what makes them productive. And I went way back into the Hawthorne days. And so I had all my empirical studies. I had them all in my thing. I got an A for the diploma, postgraduate diploma. But I also got an A for the dissertation itself. So after it was done, and it was from the London Metropolitan University, and then I just laid it out in front of the directors when we had a meeting. I said, look, the only way that this place is going to turn around is if they feel recognized, they feel as though they're being rewarded properly. And it didn't take long, actually. And they said, okay. Within a year, I had turned that place around. We were winning national awards for the work that we did, the legal work that we did. And that's only because I made them all come together as a family. We used to go for our meetings in the local pub or the coffee shop or something. We don't have to sit at the desk, So I just made it more like a family, accepting that people are people, they're not machines, And, I was only there for 3 years. So after I sorted it all out and everyone was happy and, I then decided it's time to spend time with my daughter, And so I left. But even now, this was 2006 when I left. Even now, I get people on Facebook saying, oh, Janine, you were the best boss we ever had and blah, blah, blah. Because I wasn't a boss. I was a leader. I was their friend. You know what I mean? And that's why I wanted to do this, because that I feel so passionately about the workplace doesn't have to be staid and boring. Make it joyful.
Right.
So lots of joy of work. I said, yes, I'll have some of that.
And I love that, because you're saying, you know what, let's make our own joy,
Yes.
out of our situation. Let's, it doesn't need to be, a struggle to get up and go to work every day. Let's make it joyful to be there. And I think that, that's the whole thing about this book is that idea is bringing joy into the work. So
let's face it, we spend most of our lives at work, especially if we do corporate stuff. If we're entrepreneurs, we can do whatever we want, which I love. But in the corporate field, they're there for most of their lives. So make it fun, make it a joy.
Yeah, I love that. Jody, do you feel the same way? That bringing, making your own joy in the work that you do?
Absolutely. And so again, I think that the purpose of life is for us to experience joy. And so, you might be in a role right now where you might not be experiencing so much joy in your life, or, maybe you get those Sunday night blues. One of the activities that I share in my chapter, I do share 3 in my chapter, to help you get more clarity about what would be your ideal job. What is that thing that would help you come alive? And one of those things too is uncovering those things that fulfill you, or your values. And when you get clear about those things that are really important to you, maybe you don't have your ideal job right now, but find out what some of those things are and see how you can incorporate those into your current position so that you do experience more fulfillment and more joy. So see how you can pull those things in that would help you feel more fulfilled until you do land that job that is your, that thing that would just bring you such joy. So I that's one of my tips there.
Yeah, that's great. So we're talking to the authors of the new book, Joy of Work. It's available now on Kindle. Head on over to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy. You'll be able to get some free gifts from a bunch of the authors that are in this book. In addition to, there's links there to purchase the book on Amazon and help us to get that _1 spot. So I'm excited to be able to, to share the stories of so many authors in this book. It's been a long time coming for this book. We've really been working hard behind the scenes, getting everything together, getting all the marketing materials, gathering all the stories together, and it's been a really fun process with this book. So, I'll start with you, Shameen. What do you want the readers to get out of reading this book?
Essentially, I think looking back, my whole life has been, that's why my first published book was called There's No Time Like the Present to Create Your Future. And that was, like I said, when I was feeling a bit down, and I thought, come on. And the essence of everything is, if there's something you're not happy with, if there's something that you prefer was different, do something about it. Do something about it. Even if you need to challenge it in court, that's not easy, but do it. But if you just have to make a complaint, do it. If there's something you can fix yourself, do it. Try and do something about your situation, because no matter how small, the fact that you've tried to do something means that you just achieved something, and that in itself would lift your spirits, right? So that's my whole kind of ethos. And so I've done a lot of challenging in my life. So even at that place where many organizations that I've been in, I've turned it around and moved on. But even that place, which was one of the worst corporations in London, and I made sure the legal department, which is like the hub, because they've got to deal with all the departments, I made sure that they did what they need to do, and that the work improved and won all these awards. But still, I was then deputy head of law. There came an opening for the head of law who was going on sabbatical or something. And all the directors were saying, well, we don't even need interviews. We know that, you're going to get it. And like I said, at that time, I was thinking of leaving the profession. But I thought, well, all right, let me stay because my team want me to stay. So we went through, there was just 2 of us that got through to the interview stage, me. And then there was another man who happened to be white. Now, I'm a Black woman. One of the criteria was that you have to be qualified lawyer or barrister, and then, whatever else you've got going on. And it's only afterwards when he got the job, and I thought, well, I was leaving anyway. And then I thought, well, hold on a minute. This has happened far too many times in my life. I'm going to challenge it. So I challenged it on grounds of race and sex discrimination. Before you go to court, you had to do some sort of internal investigation. Through looking at all the paperwork, I realized that it wasn't just race and sex with me. It was also disability discrimination, because in the paperwork they said, oh, but you know what, she's got a disabled daughter, so she's not going to be able to be here when she needs to be here. I've been there for the past 3 years, you know what I mean? So I added that to it, and they said, oh, they didn't want it to go to court, and so we had come to an amicable agreement, and then I was able to move on with a 6-figure sum and do what I wanted to do after I had done what I'd come there to do. But even when you do good things, you won't necessarily get the result you want. But then if you don't like what's happened, you do something about it. That's the whole ethos. If you want joy, create it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There you go. Jody, what do you want the readers to take away from reading this book and reading your chapter?
So, in reading my chapter, I would say that success is a result of doing things in a certain way. And I hope everyone will read my chapter about how to apply law of attraction, because when you gain clarity about what it is that you truly want, you give it your attention, energy, and focus, then you can more easily attract it to your life. And so, again, I share 3 different activities to help you bring some clarity in your life, either to attract your ideal job or career or business, or how to make your current position even more fulfilling.
I love it. Thank you. Well,
Thank
thank you for being part of this book. Thank you for joining us today. I see Linda's here. And everyone head on over to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy, pick up your copy and help these all these authors today reach that #1 status. Yay!
Woohoo!
Yes. Oh, great. I love the message that both of you had to share, about joy and, finding it within yourself. Plus it's finding you, the 2 messages there. But I wanted to come up because we have 2 different books that we're working on. And as you both were talking, I just wanted to put this out there for Jody. We're working on one called Quantum Manifestation. And so we would love to have you in that book if you're interested in that. And then Chaneem, we have one called Unstoppable Fearless Female Entrepreneurs that we're working on. And then we have Unstoppable Shepreneurs, right? I mean, it's perfect. So I just want to invite you both to that. And then just to let anybody who's watching us today right now, is that we do have a 30% off special going on during summer. And so if you go to our website, actiontakerspublishing.com/authors, and enter the code SUMMER30, you'll get 30% off. So this has been fabulous. I love the message. The Joy of Work is a fantastic book. We're going to be watching the rankings all day long to see what happens. We got to pass up Elon Musk, you guys. We got to pass them up in the UK. So Janine, get busy sharing it with your friends in the UK. And our Canadians, we need you to get busy sharing it there. And then we also want to share it in the US. And we got to just pass up Elon Musk. That's all I really care about at this point. So y'all, thanks so much for coming up here. Truly appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being part of this journey.
And Jody, we might be able to collaborate at some stage.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what it's all about. Collaboration books, collaborate. We'll see you too soon. And thank you so much for being here. Oh my gosh, Sally, that was fantastic. I just love both of their messages, what they're doing. And I love that concept that, your work is looking for you. That was like, as she said that, I was thinking about all the 49 jobs I had. I was wondering, were they all looking for me? I don't know. I guess 49 times looking for different jobs. Let me see what's, yes, that's much better, Katie. Okay, we're going to bring up our next guest, but after we're going to run a quick 30-second commercial. Again, we are looking for authors for other books we have right now. We're working on 11 different books. So if you're looking for an opportunity to share your message or story in a book, this is a great way to get started, is through a collaboration book. Sally, if you can put earbuds in, that would be awesome, because I am still hearing some feedback from you. And we have this special going on right now at actiontakerspublishing.com/author. And then you can go to enter the code SUMMER30 to get 30% off. So we're going to go to a quick commercial, and then we're going to bring our next authors. We have Katie Evans, Whitney Wiley, and Leah Hoyer hanging out in the green room. And we'll be back in about 30 seconds. Oh, wait a minute. We're going to be back in a minute and 30 seconds.
One of the things that I've personally found from my experience of working with Action Takers Publishing is that I've walked away with more friends than I had before, because of the relationship that you build with the authors while working in an anthology. I think it's an amazing project to be able to get published. It's a fantastic way to get published the first time, and I've almost seen people who get hooked on doing anthologies, because once that bug is bitten, you feel like you can release more and more and more and more stories, and Linda's got a bunch of titles that I think resonates with a lot of us who live in the real world.
Hi, all. I'm so excited today talking about the book, The Joy of Work. When this book title came, I was like, I don't know if I've ever enjoyed work until I started doing book publishing, and everything really shifted for me. And so we had our first two guests on were Janine Noak and Jody Santangelo Ash, and they talked about, how basically we can create our own joy in life and our own joy in work. Next up, we're going to bring up our next three guests, Leah Hoyer, Whitney Wiley, and Katie Evans. And Sally, you got the board. I'm going to stop controlling it, which I sometimes have had trouble doing, but my hands are off. Okay, my hands are totally off. So first, I wanted to welcome you all to The Joy of Work. And just with a raise of hands, how many of you are first-time authors? You can just show me? None of you. Okay. Oh, Leah, Katie's. How can you be happy?
I write fiction, so this is my first nonfiction.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So you're a old hat at the book game, which I love. And Whitney, I love that you're here with us today because Whitney is the brainchild of this book, The Joy of Work. And this book has a little story behind it. So Whitney, before we get started, can you share with us what is the story behind this book?
So, well, first of all, thank you. Hi, Leah. Hi, Katie. And congratulations to you both. And Linda, once again, for bringing a successful product to market. But but the story behind this is basically I spent a lot of my years, what I call unemployed, underemployed, or unhappily employed. And I knew there was a better way. It didn't make sense to me that I was going to spend like a third of my life unhappy. And I found myself one day after a conversation with my husband, who told me to stop coming home complaining about my work, saying, you need to, this isn't working and you need to figure it out. And so I started doing some introspection, and it's something that I talk about in my chapter. All right, really exploring how to bring joy, not just to my work, but into my life. And I figured that if I took control of what I was feeling, what I was doing, that the joy would follow. And I was right. And so I have since made a career out of helping others to do exactly that. As it translates into the book about 3 years ago, and this is a project that I came up with about 3 years ago, started with a different publisher. That didn't work. Linda stepped in and said, that's not going to happen over there. We would love to publish this if you want to come over and publish. And so I said, yes. We retooled the concept, rebranded it, gave it a new name. And this is the baby that was birthed.
The result. Yes.
Of the 3-year journey. So
Oh wait, this is what we're doing now. Yes.
Yes. That's right. This is what we're doing. All at different times, but we're doing it. We're doing it. And it's so fun. This book here, when the concept came up, Whitney, I just had doubts about joy of work, like enjoying work. And then when you explained the concept there, I was like, okay, I totally can get behind this because I do enjoy what I do now. All those years in corporate, I don't, everybody's different, but my enjoyment in corporate did not exist because I had 49 jobs in 36 years. So it's kind of obvious that there was like no joy there really. I was always trying to find something better. But right now, so this book is already an international bestseller in 3 countries, the US, Canada, and the UK. And we're up against Elon Musk in a couple of the countries. And so we're gunning for him.
He's toast. He's toast.
That's right. So we need you all to go over to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy. You'll get your copy. It's $1.99 on Kindle. Just go get that Kindle version. Even if you don't have a Kindle, you can still download it. And I guess you can download it on some different apps. I don't know anything about all that, but you can still download it as a PDF or something like that. So just go over there and get the $1.99. If you want to be reimbursed, send me your receipt and I'm happy to give you back your $1.99. I will do that. So next up, I want to bring up Katie. You want to share with us, a little bit about like, why did you decide to join this book? What was it about the title, the mission, your own life, your own journey with work? Like, what was it about that made you want to join this book, The Joy of Work?
This is such a serendipitous thing for me because I made a major life change at with the mentorship of Jennifer Persyke and Janice Thompson. So the other two authors on the cover of this book are both mentors to me. And I was in a program working with them on a number of things. And I was in a place in my life where I had a great career by all accounts, right? I was in a really wonderful job that compensated me very well. I was working for a wonderful team. I was, everything from outside appearances looked like I should be the happiest person in the world. And for whatever reason, I couldn't figure out at the time, I wasn't. I just wasn't getting the satisfaction out of my job that I wanted to get, and I could not figure out why. So Jennifer helped me to get into a leadership program that was really useful in guiding me. And then it was an exercise that Janice led that was related to our values that helped me discover why I was unhappy. And the answer to that question is that my most important value is impact. I need to feel that the work that I'm doing creates an impact and is making a difference to people. And the job I was in, while it was wonderful, again, I mean, I had a great boss, I had great employees, everything was great. I kind of was feeling that I had made as much of an impact there as I was ever going to make, and that I wasn't going to be able to make a whole lot of difference anymore. And so knowing that helped me figure out where I wanted to go from there. And now I've changed careers, and I'm in a position where I'm able to make a big difference in a lot of different ways. And it's really created a sense of joy for me around the work that I do every day. So my chapter is really specifically about finding and identifying your values and then using those values to drive your decisions. So once you know what your values are, it's really important to stick to them and to make sure that when something flashy and wonderful comes around, that before you say yes to that, you think, does this align with my values? And is this going to work for me long-term? Because I know what my values are and I want to make sure that I'm choosing work that aligns with them. So that's the basis of my chapter. And I'm so excited to be a part of this project with so many incredible people. There are just so many wonderful chapters in this book, and I'm just really, really excited to be a part of it. And I will tell you, after going through that big experience, it was Jennifer, who I know you'll be talking to later, who said to me, you need to tell your story in this book. And I said, you're totally right. I do. I want other people to understand what I went through, and maybe it'll help them to identify what they need so that they can find their joy in what they do as well.
I'm curious because you mentioned impact, which I think is this is something that a lot of us get to a point in our lives where we want to make that impact. How do you know that you're making the impact that you actually want to make? And actually, I'm going to ask that of all of you. I'm going to start with Katie, then we're going to go to Leah and Whitney, so you guys can think about the answer to that question. How do you know you're making the impact you want to make?
For me, it's pretty evident. So I work in an environmental field where there are specific problems that need to be addressed and corrected. And so when I can tell that we've, addressed those problems, or if we've educated someone on those problems, or if we've created a fix to those, it's pretty easy for me to see that there's been an impact. And so, I'm fortunate in that there's a lot of tangible impact that I can make. And there's a lot of evidence of it. I mean, if someone doesn't have clean water and we build a pipeline to get them clean water, and I had something to do with that, I know I made an impact. So lucky for me, there's a lot of tangible opportunities for me to see the work that I do.
Yeah. Can you make an impact with our oil pipeline, please? Okay. Moving on to Leah. Leah, how do you know that, see, I just kind of slipped that in and slip right back then. Yeah. How do you know that you're making the impact that you want to make, Leah?
Well, I will first say I completely agree with Katie that it's a huge motivation for me. in my career. And particularly, I will say, as the years of my career go on, my desire and my need to feel like I have a real impact with what I do matters, because I don't necessarily want to be working when I'm 85. So there's a limit to, what I want to do, and I want to make sure that counts. I think one of the things that I have in my career is I've worked for the last 20, 25 years in the entertainment industry. So I used to make animated shows for Disney Channel. And what was so obvious is you'd go and speak at a conference in Malaysia and people like, I love Kim Possible. I love Phineas and Ferb. And like, you saw the joy that you brought to people. And that was so fulfilling. Like, I absolutely loved that. But I will also say that particularly for the last dozen years now, I've been in the video games industry. And it is still the case that it is delightful when you meet fans of the works that you put out there, people who just were so touched by the games that you've put out, whether it was the story or the fact that it brought them and their friends and their family together to play and all of that. That's really important. But now I will say for the last probably 4 to 5 years, I've had a different kind of calling within the industry, I would say, that is much more around the fact that our industry, particularly the video games industry, needs to change in a lot of ways. It needs to be much more inclusive to both the people who play games, because I think there's a certain sense, and there has been a long-standing belief that only certain types of games are going to be successful or make money or worth really investing in. And with that, I think it's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, because there is a very strong bias towards people who make games looking and thinking very similarly to one another. And so it's very much been my calling and my impact to also create studios, lead studios, be part of that have inclusive hiring practices, that think very much about the content that we're making from a really sort of diverse and global perspective, and question some of the things that were normal in that area as well. So I think now I get even more of my sort of satisfaction from the fact of knowing, like, the company that I've started recently is over 50% women. It's heavily diverse, even within the small group of, 7 of us that are there, from just, racial, gendered, economic backgrounds, everything. I'm really proud of that. Our entire engineering core is women, and the number of people who work in the games industry who say that it's impossible to find a qualified female computer engineer to work on their video games, and you just go, I'm sorry, I don't believe it. And so how do I get them to, think about that a little differently? And that's really where I start to see the impact, by just showing them that it's possible.
That's awesome. I love that, because I think it's important that when we're wanting to get our message out there, people have to become aware of what it is that we're doing in order for them to know that they might be able to participate. And that's what you're doing. So congratulations on that. We're going to come back to you in just a second, but I want to go to Whitney. Whitney, how do you know that you're making a greater impact?
I think for me, impact shows up pretty tangibly as well. And so the work that I do, if I'm having impact, people's thoughts are changing, their mindset is changing, their behaviors are changing. And so, and they will start to see changes in their lives, right? Not just their work, but in their lives and the quality of their relationships, etc. And they're going to let me know. So I get messages, I get emails. People are commenting on things on social media. So it shows up very tangibly. I want to touch on something that Katie said, and it's interesting. Because I wrote about values and priorities as well. It's a huge thing for me. And the work that I do with my clients is making sure that everything that you do is is tied back to your values and your priorities. And when you do that, you are making choices that you can be in alignment with. And the reason that I was unemployed, underemployed, and unhappily employed for so long is because I didn't know what my values were, or I was operating in a set of values that I wasn't in alignment with. And what's really interesting here is that the field that Katie is in that brings her so much joy and that she's in alignment with was the industry that I was in that I wasn't in alignment with. And here's the beautiful thing about all of this is that there are going to be people in certain jobs, certain industries, positions, etc., companies that for whom that resonates with them, and others that don't. And if we spend our time thinking, oh, I should be happy here because I make good money, I've got a great title, prestige, whatever it is, and I had all of that in that role, if it doesn't, if you're not in alignment with it, you're going to struggle in that arena. And when that light bulb sort of clicked on for me, it made the huge shift that allowed me to transition and do things that really worked for me.
That reminds me, Whitney, when one of the 49 that I had was I was a 911 operator, and people would call that. I mean, it was very, very stressful. I was really good at what I did. I went through the training fast and all this stuff, but I hated it. And it was such stress. But there was a woman there who absolutely loved that job. And so that's another thing is we can be great at something, but it doesn't mean that that's the thing we should be doing. So I had to find within myself the joy within myself of the work. And so I had to get out of there as fast as I possibly could. I think I lasted 5 whole weeks. And I would literally, because we had to punch a clock, like in the old days, I would punch the clock and I would stare at the clock waiting for my break and then punch the clock waiting for my lunch. And that's all I did all day. And that's not all I did, but I mean, I was so stressed out on that job. And so that's so true that, somebody can love something and it's great for them, but and even if we're great at it, it doesn't mean that that's the thing that we should be doing. What I'm going to do next is
it will always be that way. I think an important thing is that our values change over time. And so something that serves us very well now may not serve us later or vice versa. And we need to be aware of that and also forgiving of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Of that. So just because something really matters to you now doesn't mean it will in the future. And it's okay to make that change.
And speaking of values, that's the title of your chapter, Katie. Yeah. It is understanding our values to find joy. So why don't you share with us a little bit about that chapter, your thoughts behind it? I know you shared a little bit about values now, but why did you come up with that title for your chapter?
Right. So, I mean, it is blatantly what it is. If we understand our values, we can find joy in our work, and not just in our work, in other parts of our lives as well. And I really think that understanding what matters to you and digging really deep into that will help you find that direction that you need. One of the things that I talk about in the chapter is not just finding your value, it's defining your value. So a word like impact might mean something really different to me than it means to you. And it's important to define that as much as it is to identify it. Once you know what those things are, you can make decisions based on those values. And I told a little bit of my story before, right? I was in a really wonderful position and it wasn't bringing me joy because I was missing that value. And that was important because once I decided I was going to make a change, I started telling people that I was going to make a change. And the first thing that happened, which I'm sure would happen to any one of us successful women who's out and well networked, is I started getting job offers, right? And those job offers, some of them were shiny, right? They had large dollar amounts, or they had nice perks, or they had some other thing that, on paper seems like the right thing. But because I had identified my values and because I had defined them, I knew that those were not going to be the things that served me long term. And so I talk a lot about that in the chapter. I tell my story, which, you know, is I just summarized for you, but you can read more about it in the chapter itself. But I also walk you through a values exercise. There are lots and lots of ways to identify your values. And so I just walk you through one way to work on that. It's something that I first tried with Janice, and then later have done with some of the people that I mentor. And I've also done it with friends and colleagues who've been at a crossroads and decision. And so there is an exercise in the chapter. If this is something that you'd like to do on your own and you think would serve you, then you can follow the steps in the chapter and go ahead and do that.
And you can find that at actiontakerspublishing.com/joy. So if you want to, go through that assessment, go get that copy of the book. And you mentioned, defining your values. This is something that's very important. We don't have time to go into that right now, but this is something that's very important because she was able to show up and say, you know what, this doesn't fit my values, and therefore make a decision based on that. Instead of a lot of us, I don't know about you all, but I spent a lot of my years just kind of like hopping through things just to do it. And I didn't have any guide, and so knowing your values is going to help with that. One of the books we're working on right now that we'd love to have you in, it's called Finding Your Purpose. And I think that would be a perfect fit for what you're working on right now and for, where you are. So something to think about. And so what I want to talk to Leah. Leah, your chapter is called The Joy of an Amazing Network. And Katie just mentioned networking. It's like everything ties together, right? It really is like a network that we have here of the joy of work. And so why don't you share with us about your chapter title, The Joy of an Amazing Network? What does that mean for you?
Absolutely. I will say a bit of the backstory to that is that, Whitney actually and I had started talking about me contributing to a book or the sort of predecessor to this book probably 2 years ago. And I had written something quite different, and we decided to reshape what the core of this book was going to be. And at the time, I was still very excited to be part of it, but I knew I'd have to rewrite my chapter. And coinciding with that was a complete shift in what I was doing in my career. Until half a year ago, I was an executive in a Fortune 500 company. And with the economic downturn, I was, told that, hey, our project and our team were going to be going away. But I was even given the opportunity to stay at the company doing something different, and realized, I'm just really passionate about the team that I've built up right now and the project that we're working on, and we would all love to stay together. So I basically was with the grace of the company that I was at, was given the opportunity to move outside of the company and start it up. But that means I am now an entrepreneur trying to find the funding to do what we're doing, trying to build up a team, keep them motivated, keep progress moving. And literally, I would have these conversations with Whitney going, I don't know that I'm finding a ton of joy in the day-to-day right now. And for me, I'm not certain what I'm going to be writing about. And it really hit me one day that while all of these challenges are happening, the most amazing thing is that I'm not going through it alone. And, now the 20 some years of work experience and the chance to make all these connections with people, I've just realized that the moments that I get the most joy out of right now are those places where you start to realize, okay, my team is there to back me up in all sorts of ways. And it's the folks who we're, on this journey together as a small studio, but it's also everyone who's been willing to make introductions, sort of give me insight into more of the entrepreneur or fundraising side of things. I had very little sense of how venture capital operated until a few months ago. I'll say I'm still learning, but my learning curve was much higher because I had these amazing folks who were able to sit down and talk to me, or who could introduce me to a person who could help with one facet of our production on a project, and all of those things. And you just started to realize, this is so great to feel like now, while I am doing something so new and different, at the end of the day, I have been able to sort of make for myself through these kind of genuine relationships with people an easier road to get there, a more accelerated road to get there. And part of that just comes from having really genuine relationships with people who now I've known for whether it be 6 months or 2 years or 5 years, 10 years, 20 years professionally. And the amount of them who have just, the moment that I told them I was doing this, were like, how can I help? And with that, it then gave me the like kernel for what this chapter was really about. And I know that I have an absolutely exceptional network of folks in, my professional life. And it's not just the list of people you're connected to on LinkedIn, because we all know that at least half of them are someone that you briefly met or someone who looked you up and wanted to get, and that's great. But there is that, there is that sense though of your true network. That on your list of LinkedIn, there's probably that 10 to 25% of folks that you could call up when you need something, but you also know that if they called you up needing something, you'd be there for them as well. And I think that's really what allows that to happen. And it is just something that I have grown to be so grateful for, particularly over this last half a year, as I've kind of reinvented what I'm doing and everything has shifted and the chaos that is involved with all of that. And then bringing that into a perspective and a focus that feels doable. And so I talk about that, and I talk about, what are the types of relationships? What are the hallmarks of people who are really in your true network? And because to me, it's been my main source of joy for the past, 6 months.
Yeah, that reminds me of, there's the book, let me see, hold on, getting some feedback from somebody. That reminds me of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, as well as the other book, Never Eat Alone, because it's through our connections, our networks. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. Instead of operating life on a tit for tat, like I'll do this for you, if you do this for me, like you just do for others. Like in Gary Vaynerchuk's book, jab, 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 right hook. You just give, give, give. And then when you have the ask, it might not be of one of the people you gave to. It might be of somebody else. But it's really about helping others to help others, not to help others to get ahead or to get something out of it. I want to go to Whitney. So Whitney, the title of your chapter is Joy is an Inside Game. So why don't you, talk about that chapter? How did you come up with that title, and what does that mean?
So here's the funny thing. So, of course, I mentioned the original book. I'd written a chapter. I thought I had rewritten that chapter and submitted it to you at the time that we started working on this. And you send me a message saying, we don't have your chapter. Well, it's like, well, how could you not have my chapter? I'm the reason this book is happening. And so I had to scramble to because I couldn't find it anywhere. It's like everywhere I looked. And so I was like, okay, you can't find it. Either you didn't write it or you're not going to find it, which means you've got to rewrite it. And so as I started rewriting it, I just started, I looked at where I am today as opposed to where I was 5 years ago when I left my last job and started working for myself full time. And sort of the history of my work and the times when I did enjoy what I was doing. And even in the midst of jobs that I didn't enjoy, there were times, there were nuggets, there were things about it that I did enjoy. And it's interesting. Leah's chapter is about networking. I know Jennifer, one of the other principal co-authors, hers is about connection. And it's the connections, right? It's those opportunities to be in relationship with other people in the midst of the work that I found were when I felt the most joy in my work. And so it just dawned on me, it wasn't, I had been looking for work to make me happy, the work itself to make me happy in that work. And it was, no, you bring the joy to the work, and it's a reciprocating relationship with work. And so my relationship to work now is a healthy one. I would say in the past it had not been so healthy, very one-sided. I was demanding, but it wasn't necessarily giving. And when I shifted that perspective, along with some things that I've learned over the years, which is that I'm 100% in control of my life and my joy, my happiness, and I have to own that. That means owning the career and the choices that I make inside of that.
That made me think about my husband. He's 78 years old and he's working and he loves his job. He works at a grocery store and does the bagging and pushing carts around. And every day when he comes home, I say, "How was your day at work?" And he goes, "It was great." Like, he absolutely loves that environment. He gets a lot of compliments. And so it doesn't matter what work we're doing. It's like, if we're doing something we absolutely love, he wanted something that had no responsibility, because he had responsibility in jobs for 30 years, so he wanted something that was very low key, that he could be have exercise. And that was the job he chose. And it was 4 years ago he started it, and he's still absolutely loves that work. So we can find joy in whatever we do. And just like Whitney was saying, it's an inside game. It's him who brings the joy to that job. And it may be a mundane job for a lot of people, but for him, he absolutely loves it. But he's loved every job he's ever had. And so, like you said, Whitney, he was bringing the joy to his work, right? So before we
what Katie was saying, right, about the values, right, where he is in his career and the values, what's important to him, right, today may not be what was important to him 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago. But what
she froze for me.
He has in what he's doing is what matters to him, that he's living out his values.
Exactly. And so what I want to do is, before we bring up our next guest, we're talking about the book, The Joy of Work, launching. Today's are the official launch day of the book. And hold on, I put the wrong thing up. There we go. I clicked on the wrong button there. Today's the official launch of the book. You can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/joy, where it's already an international bestseller. We're shooting for #1 international bestseller. So if you're in Canada or in the UK, please go purchase a copy. If you're in the US, please go purchase a copy as well, because we're shooting on passing up Elon Musk. That's what we're shooting for. And so you could really use your help to do that. Spend $1.99 and get that copy of the book today. So the last thing I would like to ask,
that's cheaper than a blue check on Twitter. So
yeah, or a blue check on Facebook, right? It's like a monthly fee. Yeah, exactly. So to the final question I have for each of you, like 30 seconds or less, what is something that you would like the reader to take away after reading the book, The Joy of Work? Whitney, I'll start with you.
I think the most important message that I wanted to send with this book was that it is possible, right? Work is not a punishment. It's not it's not Dungeons and Dragons. It is something that you can have joy in, you can love. You just have to decide to do that, and then take the actions that it takes in order for you to do it.
Awesome. I love that. It is possible. It is possible. Next up, Leah, why don't you share with us, 30 seconds or less, what is something that having problems moving you over there? So we'll keep you where you are, I guess. Okay.
I love Whitney's comment, because I've worked on Dungeons and Dragons and I know a lot of people get great joy out of it, but I do appreciate where that was going. To me, it's so much about, I think the thing about the network side of things is you also start to realize that a network was something that I had built up and that we all build up over years. And you can have those day in, day out sort of like, hey, today was good, today was bad. And if we're just focused on those, our life becomes a bit more of a roller coaster. It's when you can take a step back and also look back at what you've accomplished over the last year and the last 5 years and the last 10 years. And you start to realize, for me, one of like the most valuable thing was my connection with all of these people. But it is something that doesn't come, you're not going to see a huge shift in that between one day and the next. And so allowing yourself to have the patience to understand, look, you can get joy in your work. That doesn't mean you're not going to have bad days. It's what do you choose to focus on? Like, where's your perspective, and how do you look back and actually realize that your opus of work and your opus of your impact on the world really can bring you joy.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. I love that. And Katie, final words for our readers. What do you want them to take away?
Yeah, I mean, I'm echoing Whitney a little bit, but I'll just add, we spend so much of our lives on our work, right? And some of us even define ourselves by our work. It's one of the most common questions you get when you meet someone new, right? They say, what do you do? So choose work that brings you joy. There are ways to do it. We literally just wrote you a manual on how to do it. So, read this book and figure out how you can find joy in your work, because it's such a big part of your life and you want it to be joyful. So I hope lots of people have that opportunity from some of the advice that we've given in the book.
Definitely go get your manual called The Joy of Work.
Yeah.
How loving your work changes your life. It really is a great book. A lot of great stories in there that help you to see how you can find the joy in your work as well. So thank you all so much for being here. Truly appreciate you. And Whitney, if you're able to stick around for our next interview, that'd be fantastic. We're going to bring you, keep you here. I'm going to bring Shelly up in just a minute. And Katie and Leah, thank you so much for being part of this book, and let's keep sharing it out there. Let's pass up Elon. Okay. That's the next message I want to share, is that we passed up Elon. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. I'm going to remove them. I'm going to remove you for a second, Whitney. I'm going to bring you right back up. We're going to bring Sally up, see how everything's going. We're operating everything as we got some really weird internet stuff going on today. So let's see, you're coming back in. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Yeah. Everything good now?
I think so. Everything was like 3 seconds behind. I would like move someone over and they wouldn't go for another. And so I'm like, did they actually move? I pushed the button and like it wasn't showing on my screen. So everything was lagging. So I said, so I had to jump out and jump back in. But
okay, and so what we do is we're going to create joy around that, and we're gonna move to our next thing. We're going to take just a quick break here, and we will be right back in about a minute and a half.
So, I know I kind of put a plug in already for the collaboration books in general, but I have actually done 4 different collaborations. It just dawned on me. I was thinking 3, but I've done 4, meaning there were 4 different people leading them. And I 2 out of the 4, I would tell anyone to be part of. And it's actually for the same reason, because Linda and this other person come with a complete sense of service, and it is to serve you and your story. And I that speaks to me in a very core level. And being in a collaboration and being there on launch day, as Shannon pointed out, there's so much excitement. And it's very different than like if you've written a book and you've launched it. A lot of times you're so tired by the time you get to that point that it's kind of like, ugh. But when this day comes for the launch, it's like, yes. And it's just like fire electricity. So that is, to me, the beauty of being in a collaboration, especially one being led by action takers, because they bring the energy, they bring it full force. and you don't have to worry about anything except being you. And that should be easy for most people. And that's the best part. You just get to bring your joy and be around people who are excited because they're sharing their story and it's changing the world.
I just love our little cheetah jumping out of that book. So next up, we're going to bring up Whitney Wiley, and she is the creator of this book, The Joy of Work that we're talking about today. And we're going to also bring up Shelley Buettner, and I'm going to disappear down into the basement where I'm going to control things. And Sally and Whitney and Shelley, have a great time. I'll be down in the basement drinking a beer. Just kidding.
Thanks.
I am kidding. It's only 8:00.
It's 8:15.
Well, welcome everyone, and we're excited to talk to the authors of this book, The Joy of Work. This is the passion child of Whitney. So Whitney, do you want to just speak a little bit on the life of this book, how it started, and the how it came to be?
I would love to, Sally. Thank you so much. Hi, Shelley. So glad to see you.
Hi, Whit. Hi, Shelley.
I've said this in a number of different contexts. I spent a lot of years being unemployed, underemployed, and unhappily employed. And I just felt like there was a better way. Right? That spending a third of my life being unhappy or not living my potential, not doing things that tapped into my values, that tapped into my real talents, and things that I was interested in, it was wasting my time. And after the last job that I had, and I would say unhappily employed in much of the time that I spent there, I had a really good job. I made good money, and other people that I worked with loved the work that we did, that there was opportunity to make a real difference, particularly for the people of the state of California. But it didn't resonate with me. It wasn't working for me, right? What I ultimately learned was that I wasn't in alignment with the job because my values were just different. And what I wanted out of my work, the kind of impact that I wanted out of my work, was different than what I was able to do there. And so I embarked on a process that helped me to get clarity about what I wanted to do, the things that I had done at various points in my life that I really enjoyed, and how could I create something for myself that would do those things. And here's the interesting thing. Ultimately, I left there 5 years ago to work for myself full time. But before I actually left, I started incorporating those things into that job. I had a conversation with my boss at the time and said, here's some things that I want to do that were above and beyond the job, my job description, which meant it was extra work, but it was something that really mattered to me. And it started to shift how I saw my job by being able to do things on a daily basis that really resonated with me. And what that included was creating a training program. I created the internship program, which allowed me to have direct reports that I was developing. And that's something that really mattered to me and resonated with me. And so about 3 years ago, I was a part of a different publishing group and the work that they were doing. And I approached the publisher of that book series and suggested a book related to doing work that people enjoyed doing. It had a different title and a sort of a different format. That project did not get to move forward. And then Linda approached me after that project was put on permanent hold and said, you know, Action Takers Publishing would love to publish this book. Are you interested? And I was like, absolutely, because they didn't have anywhere for the authors that had already contributed to that project, didn't have anywhere for them to go. And Linda allowed us not only to publish this, but to make those people whole. And it's one of the really great things that I love about Linda and about you is that you guys are about helping your authors, right, be the best versions of themselves as authors, and to have an opportunity to make impact, to have influence and change the world. And what I believe about this book and why I've been so passionate about it is that when you look into the marketplace, when you look at the statistics about how workers feel about their work and their bosses and the other, it's not a lot of good news. And I just believe that it doesn't have to be that way. And the way to move through that is to let people know that it is possible to love your work, right? It doesn't have to be a daily grind, but you've got to take some action in order to turn it into what you want. And it's really easy. I've been there. I know a lot of other people have been there. It's really easy. You've got a job, you've got a mortgage, you've got bills, and upsetting the apple cart to do something else, not start a business necessarily, but even just making a job change, right? It can be really difficult, and it can be paralyzing. So you can enjoy your work. You just have to make some choices, and then you've got to take some action to make it happen.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Shelley, why did you choose to write a chapter in this book? What was it about the title that spoke to you?
Actually, it was Whitney. I have known Whitney for a while and was, you know, the reason I was unhappy in my job was me. And I did have to change my mindset, how I looked at things. And so when she mentioned this, it was like, okay, I can do this. Because the inside work that I did, which is what Whitney's chapter is, and what a lot of people in the book are mentioning, is that it's you, it's your values, it's your connections, it's your own mindset. You know, sure, we've all worked in jobs that, you know, we think are, you know, a little bit like crappy. I don't know. Can I say that? But, you know, but it's still us. Like, you know, like Sally said on the last interview, like her husband goes to work every day and loves what he does because that's what he's made a decision to do, love his work. And I think that one of the main reasons I, you know, decided, okay, I'm going to accept this challenge, Whitney, I'm going to write in your book, was because I knew that I could change my mindset, and changing that and manifest the job and the lifestyle and the career that I wanted because of that. So that's why.
And you have.
Yeah.
Like I've watched your 3-year journey, right, to doing exactly that.
Right. It's been really fun. I mean, most of the time, you know, because like everybody said, it's like it's you can't have 100% woohoo. I feel like you're jumping out of the airplane every day at your job, but there's always going to be something that you do that isn't your favorite. But when you get to do what you're doing that is your favorite, that propels you to keep going. And then you keep taking that action. And when you do take that action, even more wonderful things, you know, show up at your door. I think that's what happened for me anyway. So,
yeah. Well, the title of your chapter is "What If?"
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with that title? And can you maybe share a little bit, without giving too much away, what you wrote about?
So, as kids, we pretend we can do anything. And then as adults, sometimes we step into a role that parents and adults have said, you will get a job, you will work there until you die, you will get married, you will have children, then the end. There was like a part of me that just didn't want to stop pretending. And that's why I was miserable in my jobs, because it was what I was pretending wasn't what I was doing. And so then as adults, sometimes we pretend that we are happy. And then behind the scenes, we're miserable, and it just eats away at us. And so I guess the way I came up with the chapter was, what if you quit pretending everything's okay? And what if you pretend that you can do whatever you want, and then figure out a way to go do it? I heard something, I don't remember if it was on one of the interviews or talking with somebody, but when the lights go out, the first thing you do, and I just experienced this a week or so ago, we had a tornado hit close to us, and I had no electricity for like 3 days. When the lights go out and it's dark, the first thing your eyes are doing, and the first thing your instinct is to look for a light. And if you don't see one, after a while, that fear sets in. It's like, I don't have a light. So we need to train ourselves, whether it's in work or whatever, to find that, don't give in, don't give in and don't give up. Keep looking for that light in that darkness, and that you're going to find it, and you're going to keep going towards that, and it's going to get bigger, and then that darkness is going to fade away. So a little metaphor there, but that was another reason.
I love that metaphor. That's awesome. So what do you want the readers to take away from your chapter and from this book? What do you think the readers will get from being reading this book?
It's funny. There's so many things when I've heard people answer this question. For me, I want people to really take a look inside themselves, and sometimes that's really hard to do. And I want people to go in and figure out, get clear with themselves, get everybody else's voice out of their head, get still with themselves, and figure out, like, hey, what is it that I really do like? And okay, let's say I like folding paper. Well, how can I make that a job, right? Or how can I make that my career? So we really have to think deep and maybe start asking other people questions like, hey, this is what I like to do. Any ideas? And what comes to your mind? You're like, well, I could be a professional paper folder, but you know what I mean? It's like, you have to just really start looking within yourself. And that's what I want people to do. And that's why I wrote the chapter the way I did. I gave them 3 examples of things that I did as a child that they showed up in different ways throughout jobs that I had, but I didn't realize it. Like, I've been writing my whole life, playing with jewelry my whole life. And oddly enough, I realized I've been taking photographs my whole life. All 3 of these things are rolled into what I do now. And that was a really big aha moment. I don't know if I just took it for granted or because it was something I was doing. I didn't realize when I stepped into the entrepreneurship arena of my life that, oh my God, oh wow, like I'm doing that. Oh, I'm doing that, and so it just became one of these things where I thought, if everybody could stop. And what'd you do as a kid? Did you play doctor? Like, did you test everybody with your stethoscope? Did you like put on your firefighter gear? Did you put on your ballet shoes? Did you tell jokes in front of the mirror? Did you do magic tricks? What'd you do that was fun and you loved? And then you went out and did something else because, you didn't, in my generation, parents and where I grew up, it was like, you can't, I wanted to be an actress. And they're like, My dad was like, no, sweetheart, little girls from Atlanta, Illinois don't do that. And I went, oh. And I was like, well, why the heck did I have to be here? I mean, why couldn't I be born in LA? I'm like thinking, okay, I got to be in LA if I want to be an actress or whatever. And the other thing is that that's part of the pretending too. You know, when you are pretending or visualizing, this is part of your dreaming. And this is how you manifest these things in your life, because what everybody said it, what you think about, you bring out, and what you visualize, if you focus on that long enough, of course, yes, you do have to take action, and nothing happened until I got off my butt and did something. But it can happen. And that's what I want people to know, that they too can pretend there's something and actually make it come true. So.
Yeah. And I think, we all have that, that need to want to have that, that stuff manifest in our lives. We want the,
oh yeah.
And that and I think a lot of times we lose that imagination. We lose that as we grow, as we become an adult, that that childlike, wonder. And so, yeah, I appreciate that you wrote about that. Yeah, it does. So it's gaining that back. And
I think that's why I was miserable in so many of my jobs. It's not that they were completely lousy jobs, and I had some really good bosses. And the funny thing is that it was because I wanted to keep pretending that, I was a photographer, or that I was a famous jeweler, or that I was, whatever. And that's not what I was doing on a daily basis. So because of that, I made myself miserable. It wasn't that my jobs that I've had haven't been good and fulfilling ones. They just sucked the life out of me because I wasn't in alignment with where I needed to be. So.
Well,
Yeah.
We're talking with the authors of The Joy of Work. The book is available today over on Amazon. If you go to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy, you can get your copy there. And we'd appreciate you getting the Kindle version today and helping us to hit #1. Shelley, thank you so much for being part of this book, for sharing your story. Whitney, thank you for putting it all together. We appreciate you both being part of this. Thanks. And we'll be back soon.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
I'll unmute myself. You unmute yourself. Okay. So exciting talking about this book, The Joy of Work. Today is the official launch day. It's already an international bestseller, and we're shooting for that #1 spot today. So if you can help us out by getting your copy for only $1.99, the Kindle version at actiontakerspublishing.com/joy. Also, while you're over there, you'll see a lot of free gifts from our authors. Go cash in on those as well. We have our next two authors coming up, Pam and Robert. We're going to bring them up in just a second. But I want to know from you, Sally, so far, we've been at this now for an hour and a half with the authors. What's been your favorite part? Don't not a favorite author, because that's, again, like choosing your favorite children. But what's been your favorite part of today's interview so far?
I think it's just the fact that this book came to life, and in Whitney's story about how it was such a struggle to get this going at first. She had the idea, she wanted it to write this book, and it kept starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And even with us, I think when we first took it over, it hit like a point where we were like, all right. But today, with the launch day of this, it's just, it's so good. It's so good to see this finally here.
Yes, yes. It was a long time in the making, as Whitney mentioned, 3 years ago that it got started and some things happened. And so, COVID played took a toll on a lot of
Exactly.
people, a lot of lives. And so that's what happened, through this journey. I want to, before we bring up our next guest, I want to just, I'll invite you all, if you're liking what you're seeing, wanting to become an author yourself by writing just one chapter in a book, now is a great time to do it. We have a summer special sale going on, 30% off. So if you go to actiontakerspublishing.com/author and enter the code SUMMER30, you'll get 30% off. We have 11 books that we're currently filling. One that's the closest to being filled right now. So if you want to become an author fastest, which it would be a book called Finding Your Purpose. So if you feel like you found your purpose, you want to share with us the journey that you took in order to find your purpose, that's a perfect book for you. We'd love to have you. So we're going to do Sally's. I'm going to bring up Pam and Robert, and then so let's see what happens. You go down in the basement and control everything, and we'll see how the internet treats us for these next couple interviews. I keep getting kicked out, and my screen goes black, and I'm not sure what's happening for you over there. But we're making it happen, and you know what? We're gonna persevere. So
Okay, sounds
we'll
good.
bring up Pam and Robert. Hello, hello, hello. It's good to see you both today. There it is. Got the book. The Joy of Work. Oh, so excited. So Pam, first of all, Pam and Robert, welcome. Congratulations on being international best-selling authors. This book has been one that's been in the making for quite a while, and just want to thank you both for, sticking it out with us, to getting this thing published. And if I go like this every once in a while, it's because a mosquito just flew by, and I'm feeling it. Keep moving on. We live right by like a river, and it dries up and then it fills up and then dries up. Every time it dries up, oh my gosh, the mosquitoes just come under attack for me. So anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today. Pam, I want to talk about, before we get started on anything, I want to talk about your chapter title because it really interested me, right? The 3 P's wrapped in an E. Like, what the heck does that mean? It sounds like a song or something. Are you going to rap for us? Sing us a song?
Yeah, I always speak in like little puns or quips. I'm kind of known for that. So it felt natural for me that I had to have one. But really, it kind of came together when it was really about the purpose, the people, the play, but that it takes effort, that it is something that it's an internal effort. So 3 P's wrapped in an E is a simple way to remember, especially if you're having a day of maybe not feeling so joyful. Like, what's my purpose? What's the people? What's the play I'm having? And am I putting my effort in?
Have you always been that way? Like, always had those quips? Has it been just something that, does your family operate that way as well? Because I've never been around that kind of, okay. So it's just something that's come to you.
No, so they're really natural. I don't know why they're natural, but they always feel like, especially whenever I was guiding or coaching, or even now when I'm coaching, I think those little things help people kind of jog their memory and hold things a little bit lighter. So it's just always been very natural, even since I was young, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that gift. Okay. Robert, do you have that gift?
Not really. It's kind of forced.
Right. It's like you have to sit down and think, okay, how can I make this into something, right? So, yeah, I totally get it. I want to talk about your chapter title, Robert. It's called How I Moved from an Accidental Vocation to the Work I Love Most. And this might be a story that many of us can relate to. I know I can relate to that as well. So why don't you share with us, like, what does this mean? What has been the journey for you to go from accident to, enjoying the work that you do?
Well, it's really interesting because I'm a musician, and ever since I was a little embryo, music was the only thing I wanted to do. And so
I was playing piano in the womb, right?
So I actually was a professional musician, but when I got into the music industry, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And it's not all glamour, and you have to work and grind really hard to make a living. And a lot of people don't know that. You only see the 1 or 2% that actually are at the very top. Everyone else is struggling. And so I got into just took a regular 9 to 5 to make ends meet, to have some insurance, to do all that living stuff that I had to do. I used to joke that my job funded my dreams. That's what I used to always tell people. But as I was working in that job, my managers would come up to me and say, we think you'd be good for this. Try this and try this. And I realized that I was good at those things and I really liked them. And so I started to make a shift, and it was kind of like, let me think about this. What can I take from music and apply to what I'm doing right now? And that's how I got into organizational development and eventually coaching.
What's interesting about that is I'm curious about your shift, your mindset shift, because this is something you had been doing for a long time. And then to go from that, like you're starting to make that shift, that mental shift of focus. So what was that like? Did you have any trepidation? Did you have any fear over it or anything like that?
Oh, it's horrible. Because you see yourself in one way, and I'm like, well, if I'm doing this, what am I, right? I was music, and so I had to come to terms with that and reconcile with that. And it took a while to get to really say, okay, I can do many things. I am not just a musician. I can be a musician that also does this, and I can be a musician that's also good at this. So it took a while to get there, and there was a lot of fear.
A lot of fear, yeah. And I think the message there is to let people know that when we're faced with some sort of crossroads, whatever that is, that yes, it can be scary. But are you glad that you did it, Robert?
Absolutely. I'm glad I did it, and I've learned so many things because as these people were bringing things to my attention, I started to become more open. And because I became more open, I started to learn things. And I realized that, I like one of my bosses told me, you're really good at research. And I was like, I kind of am, right? And that became a big part of what I do now. I work for myself now. And so as an entrepreneur, I do a lot of research to try to bring value to the people I work with.
Mm-hmm. And something led to something else for you to discover something else. And so take that leap, try it out and see what happens. I talk about that all the time because I broke through a fear every single day for a year in 2015 and talk about, changing lives. I mean, gosh, it was astronomical, the shifts that happened for me. So Pam, have you had any types of things like that have happened in your life where you had that crossroads and you had to decide what to do and you went for it?
Oh my gosh, we don't have enough time, right?
Oh, okay. Pick one.
Well, I was supposed to be an attorney, and I became a single mom when my son was 4, and a sole single mom. So, for me, I had worked in retail, kind of part-time, full-time, but just as an individual contributor. And, I was really blessed to have a company, Sears, take a leap on me and give me a management position at a time where, and, honestly, people who I dedicated my chapter to, my best friend, who was also a leader, recommended me for this. And it truly changed everything as far as I really loved it. I was in high school, I was in college debate and political science. And here I was now working in retail. But the shift came pretty quick when you have to pay rent and feed your child. But I loved every bit of it. I spent 25 years, progressing up the ladder and moving 14 times and loved it all. And then now here I am today, running my own company, doing coaching and mindfulness and leadership development and another shift. So it happens all the time. I think when you don't, and I think Robert said it, kind of came to that, said it so well. Work today becomes too much of your identity. And when it becomes your total identity, you get really attached to that. And anything that you get attached to can cause you suffering because everything's impermanent. So I think just not attaching to something, like, it doesn't mean you don't care. And it doesn't mean you don't. In fact, it's not that at all. It's that when you can hold it a little bit lighter and recognize that's what you do, not who you are, you're much more able to be nimble and make adjustments either in the current role that you're in and or in a new role. So it doesn't always have to be, moving to a new company or quitting your job. But really recognizing, like, when you attach so hard to your identity, it can cause some pretty hard suffering.
Yeah. Be a Gumby, right? Gumby. We all know what Gumby can't do. When you mentioned Sears, something came to mind, and I don't know why I feel compelled to share this, but I'm going to, just because that's who I am. Remember those, what was it called? Chocolate honeycombs that they had? Like Sears always had these little candy areas and they had chocolate honeycomb. Oh my God. That's the only reason I ever went to Sears was for the chocolate honeycombs. I don't know why. So I felt compelled to share that for some really ridiculous reason. I don't know what the reason is. So I'm curious, like with this book, the Joy of Work, what was it that brought both of you to the book? I'm going to start with you, Pam. What was it that brought you to sharing your story in this book?
Well, Janice, Dr. Thompson, dear friend of mine, again, people, right, brought me to this. And when she invited me in and talked about it and just shared, you've got a good story and you've made so many transitions and really talking about the mindfulness. And I trust her, I trust her with everything. She's one of my dear friends and I value her opinion. And I thought it would be a nice challenge, to really kind of sit with it. And what does joy of work mean for me? And, can I really do that reflection? So it was a great exercise. It definitely took effort, but really that encouragement from Janice. And then, some of the others that have participated, brilliant authors, but brilliant humans and really important in my life and part of different parts of my life in my, in the last 5 years and will be forever. So it was joyful. It was fun.
That's awesome. What was it like when you sat down to start writing? Did you have any thoughts, doubts, or anything like that show up? And if so, how did you blast through those?
I don't know that I blast through anything. So, not to give away kind of the whole chapter, but so I do mindfulness and I'm certified in it, and that's part of my coaching. And it came to me in my old role is just dips a toe in the water in moments of time. Now it's a pretty rich practice in my daily life. And so I did the death contemplation meditation for days and really sat with what we call a koan. Who am I at work when I die? And really just took some time to reflect on that. And so I didn't actually want to rush it or blast through it. I really wanted to sit with that and kind of savor that process. Even the stuff that might've been messy. Because it really helped kind of bring me to a really clear 3 Ps wrapped in an E. There we go. I love it. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for putting that pen to paper and making it happen, or fingers to keyboard, whichever it was, to make that happen. So Robert, want to share with us, like, what was it about the joy of work that made you decide, yes, I'm going to go ahead and write a chapter in this book?
Well, I was one of the first group that came, that group that came over with Whitney. So I've been friends with Whitney since we went to grad school together. That's how I met her. And she had told me about a project that she was doing with another publisher. And I was like, sure, fine. That sounds great. Started that process. And of course, that fell apart during COVID. And we made the transition to come over to Action Takers, which was been a fantastic experience for me.
And what was that like? Because there was a shift. I mean, the story was different. Everything changed about it because there was one format, but our format is completely different. So what was that like for you to go back to the drawing board, so to speak, and, rewrite your chapter?
It was, I do a lot of writing, but the hardest part was shifting my mindset because, like Pam's, when you get attached to stuff, it's one of those rough things. So I had to first let the old thing go. I had to let the old project go. And once I was able to do that, I could sit down with a fresh set of eyes and start, outlining it and then writing it. So that was the hardest part. Once I got got started, I could get on a roll. And I think you all made it very easy to do. The instructions were very clear, and just tell your story, and that made it very easy because we all have a story. And I think that because the arc of my career, some people may find it interesting. You went from being a musician to doing this and didn't know what you were going to do, and other people saying, hey, why don't you look at this thing over here, and becoming open like that. So it was once I got attuned to my story, it was a lot easier.
What I love, Robert, is that several times you mentioned the word open, because being open to things, being open to changes, being open to learning new things, being open to meeting new people, all of these things have a lot to do with our growth as human beings. And so was there a point in your life where you weren't as open? Is that why you mentioned open, or is it something? Okay. I see the chuckles coming. So please share.
Oh, absolutely. I think I really started becoming more open when I became a coach. That was really the turning point for me. Prior to that, I was a very binary thinker. It's like, it's this or that. It doesn't have to be this or that. It could be this and that, right? But a lot of us are, and I was very focused on particular things, and my trajectory was going to be like this. And when those things didn't happen the way I thought they were going to happen, it caused me a lot of trepidation and pain. So I had to start looking at my mindset. I am now a big proponent of the why question. Why am I so attached to this? Why is this so important to me? And then trying to dig a little deeper and seeing if you can make a shift. So that's the answer. I started out being very, very many things. And my evolution, they say that when you get older, you get more closed. I'm getting more open to things.
I hear you. I'm the same way. Like, I'm growing and growing. I'm like, the goal is for me is to keep growing until I take that last breath. I mean, I don't want to stop growing, because it is having that open mind is what keeps me alive. That's how I feel on that. Pam, I would love to hear your perspective on that.
No, I love that he keeps saying that about that openness, because I always talk about just be curious. When you're feeling really tight about something or really heavy, that's probably when we should get curious, right? It's not that I love when he said this or that, when the this or that mind happens, and stop shooting all over yourself. It should be this, all of those things, and just kind of like hold it a little bit lighter, get curious. I think we've, part of this joy of work, what's been fun about this is just the reminder to me, like, we've kind of made this work thing pretty heavy, and it's kind of silly, to be honest. We've become pretty externally rich in our society. Things aren't that hard, right? I mean, we can sit on a couch and live our lives and order everything. I mean, everything's pretty quick and fast. But there's effort in like realizing we don't have to hold it on to it this heavy. Doesn't mean it's not important. But when you can hold it a little bit lighter and be more curious, there's just a lot more joy in that. And, what should be or shouldn't be, I just kind of dig in a little bit more internal, and it's just a lot more fun.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like, when like 4 years old is kind of that age where we start to ask why, right? That's kind of that age. And then a lot of depends on where you grew up. But for me, that was a lot of suppression. Stop asking so many questions. You ask too many questions. And then my curiosity kind of faded as I became an adult. And then I stopped being curious. And then when I broke through those fears every day for a year in 2015, that's when my curiosity started coming back. And that's when I started, interviewing people, asking questions, because I'm a very curious person. And so then I'm back, like I'm a 4-year-old again, I get to ask all those questions and be curious. And I think it's sad to me in society that a lot of us are shunned when we have questions or thoughts. And I didn't even raise my hand until I was 51 years old because I was too scared to ask questions. So it's kind of interesting what can happen to some of us, suppression. But then when we come to that point in our lives when we're ready to, to spring back out, that's time to really grab hold of it. And so, Pam, I'm curious because that curious word came up, curious in your line of work, how does curiosity play a part in your work?
Well, it's kind of all that I do now, especially when I'm coaching, right? So if I'm not curious, then, rather than guiding, you start to direct, right? So I always try to remind myself, see them whole. It's not about me, and be curious, so that we can guide rather than just direct. And open to new things. And then encouraging others to be open as well, because if there's not that curiosity, it's really hard to make that kind of progression. One of the things is really true today, and it's not just an observation, it's true, is overwhelmingly, we don't trust ourselves as much. And much of it is because there's really no boundaries today. We used to go to work and come home and there wasn't email, there wasn't something attached to you, pinging and dinging you all the time. kids would go to work, or go to school, get in fights, they could get on a bus, come, at least there's some space. I always say space is grace. And so really being curious to pay attention to what are the boundaries so that you can trust yourselves a little bit more. Because when you're listening to the outside world all the time and it's connected to you at every single level, it subconsciously, you can't avoid it. So you have to create some natural boundaries for curiosity. And that's one thing that's really, really important that I always encourage is, like, how do you turn off the external so that you can listen to the internal?
I love you said space is grace. And this is something, as you mentioned, because the way things have morphed today, that we have, people at our beck and call, every moment of the day, 24 hours a day, no matter where we are, we can connect with people with like Clubhouse 24 hours a day. It's running. It's just doing that. And so for me, it's been interesting because I find myself, when there is that space that you mentioned, that gets a little like, I feel there's something wrong. Yeah. Like something's going on inside. And that's when I have to remind myself that this is actually good. It's actually good to have that time. Right. And so Robert, I'm curious with you because, you did mention, the word open, which brought us to curiosity, and in your line of work, you're also a coach. And so how do you use your curiosity with your clients?
I try to, and Pam, I'm sure you know this, I try to ask the why question without asking the why question because sometimes we ask the why question
like defensive, much. Right?
So really finding out from people why things are important to them, why they may be attached to certain things, and really helping them see other options. I think that's one of the things. One of the things I love about being a coach is you can use your journey to inform how you coach. Although you don't want to be too attached to that, it's kind of like, I kind of use that as, well, for myself, it was really the end question, right? Why does it always have to be a this or that? What else? I think the what else question is really huge in the work that I do, to help people get more curious, to see other options.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, is to ask what else. And so we're talking to a couple of the authors from the book, The Joy of Work, and my clicker is not working right now. So, but the book is called The Joy of Work. It's already an international bestseller. We're shooting for #1 international bestseller status. So if you can go over to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy and get your copy of the book today, it's available for only $1.99 on Kindle. And so we'd love it if you would go ahead and purchase that. We're up against Elon Musk. So let's pass him up. That's my goal, is to pass up Elon Musk. We passed up Arnold Schwarzenegger. We passed up Viola Davis. We passed up some really heavy hitters. So let's pass up Elon Musk. And with his, with all this Twitter stuff going on, I don't know, it's going to be kind of hard to pass him up, but we can do it because we got joy in our work. So I know that, Pam, you got to leave in just a second here. So I want to ask you, the final question is, what do you want the readers to take away from reading this book?
Fun, curiosity, looking for inspiration. I think that I read through the whole book and I really enjoyed every chapter because every one of them had a little nugget of some really great wisdom. So I think, you can pick a chapter a day, you can pick a chapter a week, but I think go back to that curiosity and look for your own internal self. And I don't think this book is out there so that everybody goes and changes their job or has to go be their own entrepreneur.
Right.
How do you, just sit for a moment and just internally, do I have joy at work, and have some fun with it. It's a fun book with some really great nuggets of wisdom that everybody can pick up on.
Oh, I love that. We had someone earlier that said it was a manual to finding joy in your work. So yeah, definitely, because the stories, the way they're told, can help you to find that joy. If you're not experiencing, like, you might be saying, oh yeah, joy in work, like that's a bunch of BS, which that would have been me the first 36 years of my work career, but I do have that joy in my work that I do now. So Robert, what is something that you would like the readers to take away from reading this book?
That no matter where you are, there's always something to learn, and you never know where that learning is going to be valuable. And that's what happened for me, because I was, like I said, doing the music thing for a long time. And ironically, it was all those things I learned being a musician and being on stage that helped me when I first transitioned into training, right? It was how to open up well, right? You start with the story, get people's attention, how to hold their attention, knowing when people were drifting off, and how to end strong. So you're always learning something. So even if you're in a place where you're not really getting joy out of your job, like Pam said, be curious. What are you learning that can be helpful someplace else?
Oh, I love it. Thank you both so much for being part of this book, The Joy of Work, how loving your life, how loving your work changes your life. International best-selling book. We're shooting for that #1 spot. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate you. I'm going to send you down now and bring Sally back up, and we're going to continue our book launch today.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you. So let's see, Sally, come on up, girl. Come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. Okay, hopefully I didn't click you and you clicked you, and so you clicked away and all that stuff like we had the other day. Oh my gosh, I love that. The curiosity, I think that is a big deal, that just in any part of life is for us to get curious and then to remain curious in what it is that's going on in our lives. So I really love that message of that last segment there. We have our next two guests coming up soon. Jennifer, if you're able to come on video, then we can bring you up. Otherwise, I'll bring you up when we can see you on video. Can you see her on video, Sally? Because I know that
Not yet. No, not yet.
weird things are happening right now in the back behind the scenes here. So we're going to break to a quick video, a quick commercial. Oh my gosh. I feel like I've been awake 10 hours and it's only been a couple hours. I don't know what's going on there, but we're going to run to a quick commercial and then we'll be right back. And here we go.
Hi there, my name is Jackie Mott, and I am the author of Believe All Things Are Possible. And I'm a little bit blown away because Linda has just informed me that I am now a #1 international best-selling author, and I don't know how it happened. So I just want to say thank you, Linda. I just want to say thank you so much. Linda has been so instrumental in making this happen. I mean, obviously I wrote the book, but she's so good at what she does, and she's made it easy. She's made it easy to get this out into the world, and I am so blown away right now. I don't know what she does. I don't know how she does it, but this lady is brilliant and worth all of it. Everything. Again, I mean, it takes a lot to make me speechless. It really does take a lot to make me not able to talk very well. So, #1 international best-selling, and now, right as of this moment, in 12 different categories. Linda, Action Takers Publishing, absolutely worth working with. She has been amazing. She has held my hand. She has helped me. She has supported me as I've gone through the bumps of getting this done. And now, look what's happened. Look what's happened. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Linda.
We are talking about the book, The Joy of Work, how loving your work changes your life. So excited about this, the book launch. Go get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/joy. And I just checked our rankings, and we moved from #4 to #3 in Canada. Elon Musk is still #1 over there. And then we moved also from number 11 to number 10 in the UK. So we're moving on up to the, you remember the show, The Jeffersons? Oh my
There
God.
you go.
I love that show. It's a lot of fun. So we have our next guest. We're going to bring up Annette and Sally. I'm going to disappear for a little bit because I want to see if I can get Jennifer connected. Okay. So
Okay,
I'm going to get Annette up, and have a great time.
Good morning.
Hi, Annette. Great to have you here. So, welcome and welcome to the book. Why don't you we'll start off by, introducing you. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. I am Annette Smith. I am an independent consultant in the leadership and organizational development space. I've got 25 plus years of experience in that arena, primarily in the healthcare sector.
So what made you decide to write a chapter in a book called The Joy of Work?
Yeah, it's interesting. I became an independent consultant because post-pandemic, just working for someone just didn't feel whole for me. And I couldn't figure out like what was the disconnect. And I realized it's because I was doing work that had importance to an organization, but not to the big picture globally, right? I truly believe in my heart that finding joy at work is through meaning. That's what works for me. I need to do meaningful work. I need to make a difference for people. I need to make a difference in my community. I think that's probably why I spent so much time in the healthcare sector, because even though I wasn't a clinician, the work that I did impacted the people that I lived next door to. So I really wanted to be able to share that story with the world now.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, finding, helping others brings them joy. It's that servant mentality and working in the healthcare field, that really brings that to light. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that area and how that brings you joy?
I have to say, I worked for one of the top healthcare systems in the country, and we had a leader, Van Johnson, who was truly epitomized servant leadership, how he engaged with employees. There were 50,000 employees in the organization. And every time he did like a town hall meeting, he literally knew the people's names in the room. You could tell you were important to him. And the work that you did every day was important to him. And so for me, he modeled such great behavior in what servant leadership meant. And then when he retired, there was another CEO, and then we had another one, Sarah Crevens, who I need to tell her this story, because this woman running this humongous organization, doing great work every day, still found time to volunteer, help support her kids in volunteering, and making a difference in the community in other ways. And I'm like, well, if she can do that, as she's a CEO, like she's got a lot more on her plate than I do, surely I can as well. And that really spurred me into my own civic engagement, whether it's on an advocacy level or working with community-based organizations. It's just part of what I do.
Yeah,
it's in my DNA.
Right, that happens.
Yeah.
So the title of your chapter is The Power of Meaningful Work, Finding Joy in Fulfillment.
Right.
So how did you come up with that title, and why that title?
Because as I was writing my chapter, the title came last, and I read it through several times, and it just clicked for me that I find just meaningful work so powerful, and that anyone can find meaning in their work. It doesn't matter how big or small you think your job may be, or how important it might be to the greater good. There is a way to find meaning within the nature of the work that you're doing in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and that's the key is and in finding the joy. And we talked a little bit about earlier about how we lose that imagination, we lose that as we get older, as we as we go through life, we
Right.
lose that curiosity. So have you discovered that, and have you rekindled that curiosity for life in your work?
Yeah, it's funny. Like so many people, the pandemic just changed how I view the world and my place in it. And I can't imagine spending the rest of my working life not enjoying what I'm doing. like that. That my heart breaks for when I think about people who just are, they go to work every day, but they don't actually enjoy it. Like life is meant to be lived and loved and to be big, right? Whatever that means for you. And so the opportunity to help people find some nuggets, find some creative ways to do that, is just actually also provides meaning for me.
Yeah. So why don't you share a little bit about your chapter without giving too much away?
It tells the story. It starts with a leap of faith or dumb luck. I'm not sure which one it was. And helping build a collaborative nursing program in 6 months without actually knowing how to do it, and knowing that you're not, and without knowing you aren't supposed to be able to do it that fast, and doing it anyway. And it was very successful. And so I hope that people take away that sometimes you just have to do it. You may fail. There were absolutely parts of that project that did not go well, because we didn't know what we were doing, but we did it anyway. And at the end of the day, it made a difference for the people in our community.
Yeah, I love it.
My friend.
There she is. Jennifer got her camera working. We've had a lot of tech issues as we've been going through today. Jennifer, it's great to see you. So why don't you we're just sharing a little bit about ourselves. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, hi, everybody. And yes, technology is not always our friend, that's for sure. Well, my name, again, Jennifer Persyke. And about 6 years ago, I started my own company, Jennifer Persyke and Company, a consulting firm, after being in a career for 40 years. So I took everything I learned over all those decades working in water and energy policy in the public affairs kind of organizational arena, and now apply that to my own company. And I'm having a ball.
There you go. So your chapter is all about connections. Let's connect, how making connections changes everything. So what does that mean for you?
Well, it's funny. I was also listening to some of the earlier authors, part of the original book, which was about habits. And as I thought through what is a habit? What is something that I did over my career that made the most difference for me? And it really boiled down to the connections I made, the people I met, the people I worked with, the teams I led, all of the other colleagues and peers, including Annette here, that I met along my journey, that really turned, a job into something so much more. And it actually wasn't that difficult for me to arrive at that as my topic. Because I believe it and I live it every day. It's all about our connections.
Yeah, and I have to totally agree. And that's what got me into the space that I am right now is I got involved in a collaboration book during COVID about 2-3 years ago. And one of the first things I did was connect with all the other authors. I mean, now the book that I was part of was had 150 other authors. And I sat down one afternoon and I sent Facebook friend requests to all of them. And so it's making those connections and saying, hey, what do you got going on? And I messaged them all on the side and say, hey, we're in the same book together, because now you have that common bond with somebody. And you're not just, some creepy person who found them on Facebook. But that's what, got me rolling and got me started in the publishing, because I loved being part of the book so much. And I loved connecting with the other authors and seeing what they were doing. And, I wound up, Linda was part of that book. I wound up hiring her to help me do some stuff, and we kind of connected. So it's how we, I love that. So I love the whole connection thing, Annette, do you find that too? Like the connections?
Well, I'm smiling because I met Jennifer, we call her JP, when I was a participant in Leadership California, which is designed to bring women in California from substance to significance. Is that it? Substance. Anyway.
To significance.
Yeah, success through significance. And we have stayed, she was the executive director of the organization at the time, and we have stayed connected since then and have become great friends. We do quite a few things together. And I enjoy and appreciate my relationship with her so much. And the impact that she's had on my life in such a short period of time which means we'll always be connected, which is thrilling for me. Connections are how we engage with people, how we make a difference in the world. It adds to the meaning of work, right? So I get to do great work with great people, and it's just exciting.
Yeah. And now you're connected through the book, right?
Through the book, yeah.
You know, so what was the process like, Annette, for you writing your chapter for this book?
It was hard and easy at the same time. So I had what I wanted in my head, but for some reason I totally had writer's block. I could not just put it to paper. JP kept nudging me. Just write it, just get it done. And when I finally sat down to really just write, it just kind of flowed because it was all sitting in my head. I had built up this mental block of my own creation, which I hope is another lesson for other people, that things that we think are going to be so difficult, when you actually do it, how hard was it really? Right? Just get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's a topic for another book.
There you go. There you go. Jennifer, how was the process for you sitting down and actually writing your chapter for this book?
Well, I have to say, my background, I'm a journalist by training. So I have written my entire career, as I have, worked in the external affairs, public affairs, communications sort of arena. But and I'm constantly writing things down. I'm constantly taking notes. So my problem always is honing in, bringing it together. The words flow almost too much for me. So it was more about, what did I really want to say in my chapter about connection? And, as you were saying before, it's not just a nice thing to do, honestly. As you'll see, hopefully, when you read my chapter, there's a lot of research behind connection. Connection is the thing that helped us survive the pandemic. And when we were all cut off from each other, we found every way possible, and I talk about this, to connect. And of course, Zoom and these other platforms were born. So there's real research, there's real data around how connection improves your outlook. It improves your productivity as an individual in your job and the effectiveness of a team. So I knew that because I experienced it with my own team in my own career. And I felt like I had a lot to work with. So it took some time. And of course I had to rewrite my chapter over the journey that we had in getting the book to the finish line. And I also used my connections to bring a lot of authors in, like Annette, to the book, because I just knew this was something that I wanted them to be a part of with me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, you came forward and you kind of said, you know what? All right, let's get this ball rolling. I know some people. Let's get them in and be part of this. So what was it about this project that made you really want to do that?
Well, I am a gatherer of people, and I have a huge network, and I love to help. In particular, as Annette mentioned, I led a group called Leadership California, and that was all about bringing, amazing women together and sort of lifting them up, helping them rise to the next level. And I really saw this book as an opportunity for us to do that together, but also for all of us to kind of take that step and be a bit vulnerable in telling our stories in different ways. I love the topic of Annette's book because I completely believe that too. That if you are lucky enough to do meaningful work, and I think it's intentional, you have to find that work, then your whole life will change. And again, connection is a big part of that, and being vulnerable and stepping out. So for me, writing this book was a moment of vulnerability. And I have to say, when the box of books arrived and I opened the book, I was almost afraid to go to my chapter. Like, was it any good? You know what I mean? It's just, you're putting yourself out there. And I have to say, I've learned that taking risks pays off, but it isn't easy. And I do feel like this was a step forward for me in the publishing arena. And I know this won't be my last book.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you know, taking risks does a lot of times pay off. And it's, you know, we take those risks and sometimes they don't, but when they do, it's just so much fun, right?
Absolutely.
So Annette, why don't you just tell us maybe a little bit more about your advocacy work that you do, and how that impacts you?
Yeah, so I have advocated quite a bit. It's interesting. So many of my friends now come from the advocacy or lobbying world, all doing amazing work. It's never been my actual main job, but it's something that I've enjoyed doing. So I worked with the California Hospital Association to do lobbying for things related to the healthcare workforce, which was my area of expertise. I've advocated for education, both at the local and state and federal levels. And I find that's important to me. I advocate for issues that I think are going to make a difference in the lives of others, in the lives of children and their education, in the lives of adults and their academic achievement and potential for whatever they want to do in their lives, ensuring that they have access to resources. And I think you can probably tell my eyes kind of light up when I talk about that. I could go on all day.
Well, there's where that joy comes in, right? That joy of work, and you know, you find that spark that lights you up, and
Right.
and you go after it. Jennifer, you do the water energy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how that that lights you up?
Well, I picked those issues in my career because I think they're the most important issues in California, along with healthcare. I would put all three in the same bucket. But I've moved on now and taken all of the experience and connections around the state. I work for a statewide association called Aqua, and I've applied it now to my new company. So what I'm doing now is everything I've sort of learned along the way. It's really elevating organizations by optimizing how they run and operate. It's empowering leaders through leadership coaching and training, and it's engaging communities. And I do that through all the public affairs work. So many of the folks that I work with now are from the water energy arena and many nonprofits. So I just really believe in helping organizations and individuals really position themselves for success. And again, connection, all of the folks I work with, I have met along my journey, and now they hire me. So it's powerful to connect with others. So they support you, you support them, and we all move forward together. So that's the whole idea.
I love it. So we're talking with the authors of the new book, The Joy of Work. We're talking about finding meaningful work, connecting with other people. So head on over to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy. Get your copy, and you'll also be able to get some free gifts from a bunch of the different authors that are part of this book. So before we head out, I'm going to ask each of you, you know, what do you want the readers to take away when they read this book in your chapter? Annette, I'll start with you.
I want the readers to take away a sense of hope You know, the last few years have been really tough for a lot of people. And no matter where they are right now, um, there's still the potential for finding that meaning and joy in your work, however long you have left to work. For me, I'm looking at another 20 years, and I certainly don't want to spend it unhappy. And so I hope that people will find in my chapter a way to find joy in what they do every day and where they spend the most of their time awake.
Love it. Jennifer, what do you want the reader to take away from reading this book and reading your chapter?
Well, the book itself, you know, I love it because the joy work, people think, is that an oxymoron? What? Joy work? But you can have joy in work. And I think it's a very intentional mindset that we have to get into. Also, for that piece that I write about, which is making connections, let's connect, right? We can't make connections if we sit in our cubicle and never venture out, right? Or, you know, just confine ourselves to our 9 to 5, if you will. So I think you've got to take a step forward. You have to be intentional, and you have to invest in wanting to connect with other people, whether it's professionally or in your personal life. And the payoff is huge. I mean, I am sitting on 6 nonprofit boards now because of connections that I've made. I have clients because of connections I have made. And I have wonderful friends like Annette because of connections. And because, you know, we both kind of found each other and we were open to building a relationship. And that's really what connections are all about. So it just enhances your job, your career, and it also opens your mind when you meet other people that are different from you in different fields and sectors, play different roles. It starts to open your mind to things that you might be interested in that you know nothing about. And it opens and broadens your mind to other viewpoints, which I think in this day and age is so critical to really understand other people's lives and, you know, the shoes they've walked in. It just makes us a better society overall. So I know that was a lot, but I believe it all, and I've seen it happen.
Yeah, can I just add something? It's funny that, as what Jennifer reminded me, I did Leadership California where we met because I was looking for connections. I knew tons of people in the healthcare sector. I didn't know anyone in energy or banking or water or anything like that, right? And I wanted to meet other amazing women in different areas. And it was life-changing. Stepping outside of my comfort zone to do that program. It's a 10-month program. It's amazing. Shout out to Leadership California. It changed my life.
I agree. Leadershipcalifornia.org.
There you go. There you go. You know, but you know, and it's the connections that we make, and being part of, you know, even being part of the collaboration books, you know, the connections that you make with other authors and with other women in business and other women in, you know, in life that you know, raise us up, each one of us up.
I have 19 people that I didn't know before.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, this book, this journey has also been just amazing in the way we've been able to connect, and it's like a joint project. And I haven't done that since I've been in school in a sense. And I have to give a shout out to both Sally and Linda on this. I mean, they have walked with us every step of the way, and they could not have been more gracious and more patient. And now they're my connections. So I'm thrilled about that too.
Yeah. And I love, you know, doing this because of the people that I meet, you know, and especially, you know, you guys are pros at this, but the first time authors, and, you know, we have a lot of people, it's their first time ever being interviewed. And so, but it's so great to see them grow, to see them, you know, you talked, Annette, about stepping outside of your comfort zone, to watch people do that and the different opportunities that open up because they're part of a collaboration book. So I just want to remind everyone to head on over to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy, get your copy today. And if you're interested, if you have a story to tell and you're interested in sharing your story in one of our upcoming books, we have a sale going on right now. If you head on over to actiontakerspublishing.com/author, and you enter the promo code SUMMER30, you'll get 30% off. And that's going on through the whole summer of 2023. So check out some of the other books we have available and join one. We'd love to have you have your story and share your story. Jennifer, Annette, thank you so much for being part of this book, for sharing your stories. Is there any last words you'd like to give before we head out?
Buy the book and let's connect.
Thank you to Sally, you and Linda for the opportunity. Thank you to JP for bringing me into the conversation and the collaboration. And yes, go buy the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Number one.
All right, we're going to go to a commercial, and when we come back, we're going to we'll be here. Linda and I will tell you what's going on next.
Hey, thank you.
Awesome. I love those interviews. I love how they knew each other before. You know, the books a lot of times bring new people together, but they also help to solidify relationships that are already in existence, helps us to see different sides of people, different stories that are going on in their own lives and what they're doing. And so this book, The Joy of Work, just like all of our collaboration books, they're exactly that, collaboration. They're meant to bring people together, to build community. And so far, Sally, if I know correctly, if I remember correctly, we have created 433 international best-selling authors so far. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
Oh my gosh. And it's so exciting because we're just starting. We are just starting. We are just beginning this whole journey. We're going to bring Jennifer back up because she is one of the persons that she's on the cover here with Dr. Janice Thompson and Whitney Wiley. And so Jennifer, so excited that you are part of this, bringing this together to help move the book along, because, when it came over, there was some things going on, and then we needed to bump it up and get more authors in it so we could get it published, because we didn't want to publish a pamphlet, so basically is what it was. It was kind of like a pamphlet at the beginning, and we wanted to expand it into a real, full book. But I would love for you to share with us, first of all, is that a real moose?
It is not, but I did bag it and bring it back from Montana.
Oh, you did? You bagged it. I was seeing that moose, like, oh my God, it's so cute. I love how it's on the wall, like it's a trophy moose. It's so funny. What were you doing in Montana?
Oh, you're muted.
Let's see here. I'll unmute you. It won't let me unmute you. Something happened there. Okay, hold on. Do. I'm not sure what happened. You got muted, and I'm not able to unmute you. Are you able to, Sally? It won't let me.
You cannot unmute your guest. Their mic isn't connected. Your mic came unconnected.
There you go.
There we are.
What were you doing in Montana? My mom was born in Montana. I think like Butte or something. I've never been, so I'm just curious. Like, what were you doing over in Montana?
I actually went. It was I'm a twin, and my twin and I went for a week to hike, and it was awesome. I mean, this was about 10 years ago, so I just couldn't resist the moose. I'm not a big game hunter, but I thought, I love that guy, and his name is Milton, and he's been up there for about 20 years.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I love that. That's awesome. You have a twin sister. Yeah, I don't have any twins in my family, but I'm curious, like how how different are you today, or how similar are you today?
We could not be more different, but she's my best friend. I'm a total extrovert and she's an introvert, and she can make anything, quilts, furniture, you name it. And I'm more of a creative in the brain, if you will. I have a lot of big ideas and I make things happen that way, like this book.
Right.
So we're just really different, but I would say we have kind of the same code of ethics and the same outlook on doing things right and working hard. And so we share a lot of those kind of qualities.
I'm curious because your chapter, Let's Connect. Have you always been a connector, or is this something that's been something that you've learned to do? And you said you're an extrovert, so a lot of times extroverts are natural connectors. It's kind of like they gravitate toward each other. But I'm curious, has it always been that way for you?
If I look back, it's kind of interesting. When you ask that question, I have this vision in my head. When I was 6 years old, it was our birthday, and we were at this lodge, and there was this really pretty lady a few tables over, and we were having our birthday cake, and I wanted to bring her a piece of my birthday cake. I don't know why I was drawn to her, and my parents were like, Jenny, as they called me, you don't even know her. And I said, I know, but she's so pretty, and I want her to have a piece of my birthday cake. So I walked over there with it and handed it to her. And I mean, I don't know if that was the beginning or what, but I would say that I draw my energy and my happiness from people, being with people. And I think what I saw in my career is that whether it was my own team, where I spent a lot of time creating opportunities for them to connect, for all of us to get to know each other as people, not just working and, meeting the deadline, that I just saw the results and the friendships that I helped create, even among my team members. And I had a long career. I am still in touch with all of the people that have worked for me over the years. And now they're all grown up, they're in careers, and they're hiring me as a consultant. So it's just the connection is really a full circle thing. It really, truly is. And it's so fulfilling. It's made my career completely different, I'm sure, than it would have been. And that's why I want to share that with other people, that, it's worth the risk to go if you're at a conference, don't sit in your room, right? Find a way to connect with the other people that are there. And if you don't know a lot of people, this is one of the tips I throw into the book is, ask someone if they'll make some introductions for you. I did that for a young man at a recent huge conference. He said, can I go with you? And just kind of, because it was the evening with all the receptions. Yeah. And I took him with me and I introduced him to everyone. And he sent me the nicest note after the fact. So I think we have a responsibility to do that too, for those coming up in our sectors, in our industries, in our companies, to help them make connections.
This reminds me of an event that I attended. It was a big deal for me to attend this event because it was more money than I would ever pay for an event at that time. And I literally would go during a break and I would go in a corner and sit on my phone. I was too scared to talk to anybody, but my life coach was there with me. So just like you said, she would bring people over and she would introduce them to me so that I didn't have that fear of approaching people, because I had a lot of fears. This was when I was facing, breaking through a fear every day for a year. So it was in 2015. And so it's interesting that you mentioned that, because if it weren't for her making those connections, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, because she was the one that connected me with people that I needed to help to break out of my shell. And so that was a huge instrumental part for me. Sometimes we'll see somebody standing in the corner and we don't know why they're standing there. It could be because they're scared. So if we walk up to them and we're the first to approach, this is when we can, make that relationship start to blossom. And there's a saying I like to say is, we never know who we won't meet until we step outside of our comfort zone, because we don't know who's waiting there to meet us or who we're waiting to meet until we step outside of our comfort zone. So that's, I think it's an important piece there. Now with us, with the book publishing, this is one of the things that we really love as well, as the connections, because it's through our connections that we're able to make this, planet a better place, make things a lot better. And so with the work that you do now, Janet, I would say Janice, because we're having Janice on next, but Jennifer, with the work that you do now, like how did you get to this place where, I absolutely love what I do? Have you always loved what you did? Or is this something has morphed into this?
Well, I have to say, I mean, the work in California water and energy is hard. It's hard work, many challenges, a lot of controversy. But what I learned from what was, a challenging career was how to do the things that I talk about, the, empowering the leaders, empowering my team, really helping the organization to be the best it could be. That was part of my role. And so taking all that now and putting it out there on my own has just been, I think, the most rewarding thing I've ever done. So here I am now, how many years into my career? Over 40. And I don't think I've ever been more energized or happier. And so I love that. It's sort of like all the connections have led me to this moment. And this book is just kind of this, I keep calling it a pinch me moment, because I always dreamed of writing a book and putting it out there. So I think, we have to go through the school of hard knocks sometimes to really find our destiny. And I think ultimately I am where I need to be now so that I can really help to do this for other people, other organizations. And it's working, even helping them internally to connect with their own teams is part of what I do. So it's amazing what you can learn along the way and then apply in a new way, right? And I think, again, the connection just is such a big part of that.
What suggestion do you have for somebody that's coming up in the ranks? Because you've been doing this for a long time, somebody coming up in the ranks in their job, like if they do have a job, or, somebody who's maybe embarking on a new journey, like entrepreneurial journey. But what is a suggestion that you would have for them to find that true joy within themselves, especially of the work that they're doing?
Right. Well, I mean, think about what you do. What part of it do you love? What part of it don't you like? I mean, I've, jettisoned some of the things. I say I don't do that anymore. I do this now, right? So think about what it is you really want to do, where you want to have an impact, and then figuring out how to make that happen. Again, as I write about in the book, I had no idea how to start my own company. No idea whatsoever. I was scared to death. And I went to my connections, Janice Thompson, who you're going to be speaking with next, who I met through Leadership California when I was executive director, which was one of my very first clients. She really helped me. She said, well, these are things that you need to put in place. And I had other friends that had done it. So I went to my connections again. Now I'm starting a whole new gig. And they helped me to understand what needed to be done to build a company. And I'm not kidding you. It absolutely worked. They told me the pitfalls, pay your taxes quarterly. Don't wait till the end of the year. Things like that, gave me names for accountants, all kinds of things. So, and that really helped me get moving. So if you're new at this, and especially on the front of connections, think about people that you see, that you know of, that you want to meet. Think about sectors you're interested in, and try to connect with people in those places. And if you don't know them, again, maybe you have a coworker or a colleague that does, and you've got to step out a little bit and say, hey, would you help me? Would you help me make a connection? I do this all the time for people. And no one has ever said no to me, right? And they won't say no to you either. So just, you gotta be a little vulnerable. Connection is about vulnerability too. But once you do it and you see how it works, the next time it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have people reach out to me all the time asking me to connect them with different people that I know, and which is awesome because I know people because I'm a connector. And so it really helps them to short circuit their time trying to figure things out. I will say, though, there have been some people who have reached out to me that I don't even know them and asking me to make connections. That's a completely different story.
It is.
I have to at least make sure that the connection makes sense before I will connect. So with that said,
that's a good point too. Absolutely.
Yeah, you did a really great video this morning on LinkedIn. And how can people connect with you on LinkedIn?
Well, go to Jennifer Persike. I'm there. I also, as a part of this book, you got me so motivated, Linda and Sally, in 6 days. I put up a brand new website, jenniferpersike.com, brand new as of last night at about 8:00. So
awesome.
There. LinkedIn or my website. I'd love to connect with you. And I was one of the folks that had a free gift. So hope you'll take advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. Go take advantage of those free gifts. Also get a copy of the book. Go to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy. You'll find a bunch of free gifts over there from the authors, as well as you'll see a bunch of flags there for the different countries. If you're in Canada, please go buy the book. If you're in the UK, please go buy the book because you guys are the ones that are helping us to hit that #1 international number. We already hit #1 in the US, so we're just looking to hit it in the other countries. So Jennifer, what's some final words you'd like to say to the audience? Because I want to bring up Janice's interview, and then we're going to move to the next group of ladies.
I would just say there is joy in work, and a big part of that is connection. So step out, be intentional, and make connections.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here, being part of this. We hope to have you in some of our future books as well. We have one coming up called Finding Your Purpose, which might be a great fit for you as well, Jennifer.
I'll look into it. And thank you both
okay, I'll reach
so much for everything.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. We're going to send you down, and then thank you so much for being part of this. Oh, Sally, just great. Just a great day again. All these book launches, I have a blast. I feel like we could do these every single day, but then I don't think I get anything else done ever.
I know, right?
Yeah, but it sure is a lot of fun. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to bring up, I did pre-record an interview with Dr. Janice Thompson. Going to bring that up, and please enjoy this interview and share this out. And then we're going to bring up our next guest. We have Diane Davidson, Nicole Townsend, and Cheryl Mays will be coming up after Dr. Janice Thompson. Let's stay tuned because here we go. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited about this book, The Joy of Work. It's kind of funny because it's somebody who was 36 years in the corporate world and having 49 jobs. As you can imagine, the joy of work was probably not something that I experienced most of the time, which was the case. Once I found entrepreneurship, though, everything changed. We're going to be talking about this book, The Joy of Work, and some of the authors that are sharing their story, their message about how they found the joy in their work. The subtitle is How Loving Your Work Changes Your Life. And I got to tell you, it totally did for me. I'm going to bring up our guest, Dr. Janice Thompson. And Janice, it's so good to see you here today. How's everything going?
Hi, Linda. I am great. I'm so excited to be here, and I can't wait to talk more about this amazing book and our launch coming up.
Yes, definitely. Here it is. We're launching this book. It's been a little bit of time in the making, and some of these books, they're harder to get out because, different reasons, things come up, things happen. And here we are, though, on the launch day, so excited, getting this book out there, hitting that, #1 international bestseller status is what we're shooting for. So before we get started with that, I want to share with you that we do have free gifts by a lot of the authors at our website. So just go to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy. Cash in on your free gifts, as well as when you hit there, you're going to see a bunch of flags. Those flags are links to the different countries where you can purchase the book. So go out there and get the book today, and let's have a good time and help us to hit that #1 international bestseller status. Woo woo! Because I want to have this on the screen next. Breaking news.
And I'd love to talk about my free gift if we have time. So
yes, well, let's start off there. Let's just go right into it. What's your free gift, Janice?
Yeah, so I'm an executive leadership coach. That's what I do, and that's the joy of work for me. And one of the things I thought about when you encouraged us to think about a special gift we could give to our readers, for me, it was the question, are you ready to work with an executive coach? And what would be some of the signals or signs that might help you enjoy work better, get more fulfilled, and also love what you're doing? So I put together a short survey with some questions and prompts that I hope will help folks who are interested in exploring that to complete any or all of those questions, submit the survey, and then I am happy to pay it forward as part of this whole process and sit down via Zoom with anyone who wants to for 15 minutes where I can work through those questions and perhaps provide some advice or direction in terms of what a next step might be to engage a coach.
Oh, I love that. This is good. So go to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy and cash in on Janice's free gift. What a great opportunity, Janice. Well, I'm curious because executive leadership coach, how did you get to that place? Like, how did you become an executive leadership coach? What was your journey to that?
Oh gosh, it's been like you, 30 years of working in public, private, nonprofit business. And in 2009, I really had a moment where I really wasn't feeling fulfilled in my work. And I had to make some tough choices about, do I want to continue to work inside organizations, or was I ready to step out on my own? And that's what I did. So 14 years ago, I launched J.D. Thompson and Associates as an executive coach. I also love to do retreats and team work with executive teams. So some of my work does involve that as well. But my joy comes from helping individuals be better at what they do every single day, both in work and spills over to personal life as well.
Have you always been a person that is a leader? Have you always seen yourself that way?
Yeah, I have always believed that in order to help lead others, we have to really understand what our leadership point of view is. And so one of the programs that I teach, actually, because I also teach at the university level, is working on establishing your leadership credo. Like, what does that really mean? What are the events and people in your life that made you the leader you are today? And I truly believe events and people contribute to how you show up as a leader. And also understanding, and I write about this in my chapter, the importance of establishing your personal values and living those values every day. And so that leadership credo work is something I do with every executive I coach. And it's groundbreaking. because many times they haven't thought about the path that got them to where they are today. And I have to say they're all already successful people and leaders in organizations, but maybe there are one or two things that they really need to change, a behavior they need to change in order to take their leadership to the next level. And that's what we focus on.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because what came to mind for me, which has nothing to do with work or anything, but has to do with, people and personalities and our histories and stuff, is, the vast majority of people who win the lottery, for example, end up broke after, I think 5 years is like 5 years. And that's because their mindset hasn't shifted. So I'm curious, do you ever work with any people who, I'll use me as a great example. It's like, I've always been a leader, but I never saw myself as a leader because I never fully stepped into like owning that. And so do you ever work with people who have some mental things that need to shift, or mindset things that need to shift in their mind in order for them to fully step into that leadership role?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do a lot of work individually, obviously, and talking through areas that might be holding people back. And I'm a Marshall Goldsmith Stakeholder Center coach, which means I am all about building an opportunity for people to create a change, a positive change in their life, a lasting positive change. And Marshall wrote a great book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it's really wonderful because it does speak to a number of habits, if you will, that can hold us back. And so sometimes those are the things that we focus on in an executive coaching session. Although I also find that it's sometimes a little bit different when I'm coaching executive women, and the things that hold us back sometimes are different than the things that hold men back. And it's not to say one is better than the other or worse than the other. It's more of a recognition or understanding that there are things that we tend to do as women that sometimes can hold us back. And one of those things is forgiveness, not forgiving ourselves. We're very good at forgiving others, but sometimes when we stumble or have a challenge, we can ruminate on that challenge and think about, oh, I wish I had done this, and why didn't I do that? And suddenly, we're back where we were instead of moving in a positive direction forward. So I do focus some of our time on that. It just depends. Every situation is different.
Well, I'm curious on that. I think the main reason I asked that question is because you work with higher level executives.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question here is do they also have those types of mental challenges,
Yeah, we're just in a world right now, Linda, that is so different than anything I've seen in my 30 years of working in the industry. And, we have a lot of challenges facing us personally and professionally. I would say everyone can benefit from, mindful thinking about what's really the most important thing, looking for ways to bring joy into every single day of every. Well, we're having some technical difficulties here. I just want to remind everyone to head on over to actiontakerspublishing.com/joy and pick up your copy of Joy of Work. While you're over there, there's a little a form for you to fill out, and you can get free gifts from all of the authors.
as we move forward. I think that we've been having a lot of technical difficulties over the past couple of hours here. Internet's been falling on and off, and people have been having troubles getting on and off. Hopefully, you're able to hear me and see me now. I know Linda's internet got kicked off, so the interview with Dr. Janice Thompson got cut off in a little bit early. So we just want to thank you, to remind you to go over to this book, The Joy of Work. This has been a labor of love. It's been a labor of love for the last 3 years. This has been in the process of being created. We have in here 20 different authors, and each one of them is sharing their story, their struggle of, their stories of finding joy in the work that you do. And so, great. So, it's funny when you think about work. A lot of times you think about, having to get up and do things, on a regular basis, things that maybe you don't want to enjoy. It's almost like a drudgery. But finding that happiness and that joy, and finding joy in the things that, the everyday struggle. And that was where I was just like three years ago. And I've spoken about this for a number of different times, that finding the joy in the work that you do is really, it's really helpful. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a couple of the authors up to help me out here, because we'll see what's happening. I have Diane Davidson, Cheryl Mays, and Nicole Townsend. They're all authors in The Joy of Work. I'm going to add you guys to the stream. So we've been having a lot of technical difficulties, and I want to thank you guys for being part of this book, for sharing your story here. And so I'll just go around, and I'll have you each, just briefly introduce each other, or each introduce yourself. Diane, I'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Sally. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Cheryl. Good to be with you today. I'm Diane Davidson, and I live in Roseville, California, and I'm a leadership development consultant. I do instruction and training, coaching, and I'm also a singer, and I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you so much. Cheryl, are you able to unmute and introduce yourself? There you are.
Hi, are you talking to me, Sally? Okay,
Yeah,
yes, you are. I can see I'm in the big picture now.
Oh, you muted again. Oh, technical stuff. I'm telling you. There you are. It keeps.
Okay, I think I'm unmuting me and you're trying. I think we're doing the same thing. So, okay, so my name is Cheryl May. This is the joy of technology, right? We're all here for the joy of work. So I'm in Orlando, Florida, and I am your customer experience expert. So I am all things customer service, customer experience. I serve as a corporate trainer, in addition to an accountability coach, which is a lot to do with my chapter in the book. And I'm excited to be here and excited to meet the other authors. It's like when you do these books, you never get to meet the other authors. So this is exciting.
I know. I love that, I love that we do this on launch day, and everyone's able to connect and meet with each other. Nicole, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes. Good morning. It's so great to see everyone. I'm Nicole Townsend. And similar to Cheryl, I actually am an employee experience. So I am a founder of my own company, Experience Counts. and really is all about culture in the workplace. So really enjoyed being part of this book to be able to talk about the joy of work and what that means to me personally. So great to see you all. And I am actually near Diane. I live in Lincoln, California.
Oh, cool. Now, did you guys know each other before being part of this book?
We did, yes.
Oh, great, great. So I'm going to start with you, Diane. Let me get you here. Your chapter is called Raise Your Voice. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about that title and how you came up with that?
All right. Well, first of all, I was invited to be in this book by Dr. Janice Thompson, and we have been friends for 25 years. And when she asked me to participate in this anthology, I was really intrigued by it being the joy of work. And I've actually been thinking about writing a book for quite some time because I'm a singer and actress. And over the years, I've thought about my singing and acting and being a musician and being in bands and performing on the stage, and how over the years, the skills that I learned from those experiences have surprisingly transferred over into the corporate world. And so when she came to me and said, you know, she's going to be in this book, Joy of Work, you know, would I like to participate in that? I just jumped at the chance because I'd been thinking about it over the years anyway. So my chapter is called Raise Your Voice because it was when I started raising my voice about how I was a singer that people around me said, well, you know, those skills that you've developed over the years would actually transfer nicely into the corporate world. So when I had this opportunity to talk about those things, I said, all right, now's the time.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I love, you know, I love that we're able to share our story in a book, to get it out there without having to write a whole book. You know, if you had to sit down and write, you know, 60, 70,000 words, it's really daunting. But to write one chapter, it's just so simple. Nicole, did you find that? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey through this book? And I see you shaking your head there. And your chapter title is, let me get it here, The Ride of a Lifetime.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that chapter and what this journey has meant for you.
Yes, this actually was very healing for me. So certainly took a step back and looked at my entire career. Again, connected to this book the same way Diane was. We have a mutual friend in Dr. Janice Thompson, and she's been a lifelong mentor in my career as well, always encouraging me to do the next step, the next thing. I am a writer. I was a reporter, newspaper reporter was my first career. And I wrote a lot about people and their experiences, which carries through my entire career, even through today. So it was an opportunity to actually write about my own experience, which again was very healing. I had a job elimination in January of 2020, and that led me to actually launch my